Chapter 90. This sudden turn of events made everyone at a loss. How could the Yamanaka clan, famous for their spiritual techniques, use such a powerful ninjutsu? That Woodleaf kid, when did he learn the Yamanaka clan's spiritual techniques? While their thoughts were in chaos, Wu-wei rushed up nervously. Black Rock Sama, there is a secret passage in Ghost Lantern City, I will take you out. Black Rock resisted his injury and put his hand on Wu-wei's shoulder. Quick, take me out of, Katon, heavenly prison. Black Rock suddenly raised his head and looked at Wu-wei in disbelief. Sorry, I'm actually a spy. Black Rock's whole body twitched and trembled. At this time, Asma, who was lying on the ground, also jumped up. Hey, isn't this too much of a challenge? I haven't done anything yet. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled and patted his shoulder. No, if it wasn't for your excellent performance, we might have been seen through. Asma nodded in agreement and immediately looked at Garashi with contempt. Yamanaka-sensei's acting is too bad, he didn't dare to say a word, I had to attract the fire for him. Garashi twitched his mouth. My acting is too bad, I'm sorry. Black Rock's face was full of shame, his finger trembled as he pointed at several people. You're okay? Kurenai nodded and smiled playfully. By the way, your berries are delicious. Black Rock was like being struck by lightning. He suddenly raised his head. Wait, if he's a spy, that means the information he sent yesterday was fake? Wu-wei said indifferently, congratulations, you're finally smart for once. That means, you didn't discover my plan at all? Black Rock trembled as he looked at the rock Crypsis. Idiot. If we knew, would we eat Ghost Lantern? A group of rock Crypsis shouted. Black Rock covered his chest, his eyes widened, and finally fell straight to the ground. Did we anger this guy to death? Asma asked, dumbfounded. Yamanaka Inoichi pondered for a moment, took out a kunai and shot it at Kuroshiki's heart. Chi! Black Stone sat up in shock, and then he really died. Red opened her mouth in surprise. Was he faking his death? Garashi warned with a mature face. Never underestimate any ninja, even if he's just an idiot. Asma nodded thoughtfully. I understand. After saying that, he directly used the grand fireball technique to scatter the ashes of the black stone. I switched back to my original body and dealt with the rest of the rock Crypsis ninjas. Yamanaka Inoichi looked at Wu-wei. Do you want to go back to Woodleaf with us? If I go to Woodleaf, it will be difficult to become the leader of Kusagakure with a neutral identity in the future. At least, before I become the leader, I must not expose my inclination. Thinking of this, Wu-wei firmly refused. No need. Red looked at him in surprise. But if you stay here, won't you be suspected by rock Crypsis? Wu-wei looked indifferent. Don't worry, the seal in my body is the best evidence. Asma frowned. But how are you going to explain to rock Crypsis why you're the only one who survived? How about? Asuma asked eagerly, let's beat you up and make you seriously injured? Wu-wei's cold face was about to collapse. No, it's not difficult to explain. As long as I tell rock Crypsis that my fire prison imprisons the chakra of the prisoners of Hozuki City, if I die, the prisoners here will take the opportunity to riot. You were threatened by me with this reason to let me go. As long as I explain it like this, and with the seal in my body, rock Crypsis won't doubt it, after all. Wu-wei's eyes swept across several people. Woodleaf is famous for being soft-hearted in this regard. Asma blinked and put himself in their shoes. It seems that they really will do this. Shushi pondered for a moment. After all, 2 Jonin died this time, and it's impossible for the rock village to not do anything about it. Well, I'll give you another seal to avoid genjutsu torture. If anyone from the rock village asks, you can just blame it all on that black rock. P.S. It's not that you're immune to genjutsu, but you can't use genjutsu to torture information. Yamanaka Inoichi also added. After returning this time, I will immediately ask Naruto-sama to transfer some ninjas to the Kusanagi country. With our people as witnesses, rock Crypsis can't target the neutral Kusanagi country too much. Wu Wei pursed his lips. I know. If the war really breaks out, I will try to pass the information to you. Garashi shook his head slightly, his voice was very sincere. At this stage, it's still important to ensure your own safety. Remember, we're not fighting for the present, but for the future. Wu Wei took a deep breath and nodded vigorously. That agreement, I will do it. On the way back. This mission was exciting, even 2 rock Crypsis Jonin died. Asma sighed. But, I don't feel like I participated. Hong Shen nodded in agreement. I feel like the most effort I made was to kill some robbers on the way. Compared to their relaxed and happy mood, Yamanaka Inoichi seemed to have a lot on his mind. War. Kazekage. If Naruto-sama asks, what should I say? On the side, Asma sighed and then whispered to Garashi, Garashi, what's the agreement between you and Wu Wei-senpai? Tell me, I promise I won't tell. Garashi smiled softly. There's nothing that can't be said. It's just an agreement to become the leader of each village, and then, become the leader. Asma screamed and saw Yamanaka Inoichi and Kurenai looking at him. His face was bitter and he immediately slapped himself. Garashi smiled helplessly. Didn't I say that there's no need to do this? That won't do. I'm a stubborn and principled man. Asma muttered as he touched his slightly swollen cheek. By the way, you haven't finished yet. Garashi said leisurely, then, we'll guard the peace together. Yamanaka Inoichi was a little surprised. I didn't expect that Kusanagi boy to have such a tolerance. Garashi shook his head slightly. He's not the kind of person who is afraid of death. The best way to persuade someone like him to change his decision is to let him agree with my beliefs. Fortunately, I did it. Hearing this, Asma suddenly reacted. No, Garashi, don't you want to be the greatest medical ninja? Why are you fighting with me for Naruto? There's no conflict between the two, right? Garashi smiled and sighed. I've learned one thing from my growth over the years. The ability of medical ninja is limited. Medical skills alone can't change the world. Asma's eyes were burning with flames. Even if my opponent is Garashi, I won't lose. Kurenai glanced at him. Your battle with Garashi, no matter in which aspect, has maintained a record of 0 win rate. Ah. I don't want to hear it. Become Naruto? Yes, after this incident, there's no way to treat him as a child. Yamanaka Inoichi watched quietly and inexplicably had a bold idea in his heart. Or, ask Garashi's opinion. Chapter 91. Ahem. Yamanaka Inoichi habitually cleared his throat. Well, Garashi, what do you think of the current situation? Asma whispered, is it my illusion? I always feel that Yamanaka-sensei suddenly became wretched. Kurenai nodded in agreement, just like yesterday, when Yamanaka-sensei asked us about the contents of the Psychology Society. Garashi pondered a little and said, if the news of Kazekage's disappearance is true, and war is unavoidable, then the entry point of the war is likely to be Sand Crypsis. The first possibility is that most of the people in Sand Crypsis are now in a panic. In order to divert the village's internal contradictions, the temporary Kazekage may use this as an excuse to start a war. The second possibility is that without the leadership of Kazekage, Sand Crypsis is in chaos and is at its weakest moment. It is likely to be coveted by a big country and will take advantage of the chaos to launch an attack. Yamanaka Inoichi rubbed his chin, I prefer the former. After all, the only big villages around Sand Crypsis are Rock Crypsis and Woodleaf. Our Woodleaf has never taken the initiative to start a war, and Rock Crypsis is against us because of this incident. It is unlikely to make enemies with Sand Crypsis at the same time. Garashi's eyes were heavy. In his previous life, there was not much description of the beginning of the Third Shinobi World War, so even he could not make an accurate judgment about it. And from our Woodleaf's point of view, the outbreak of war now is actually very dangerous. Garashi said and sighed, as those Rock Crypsis said, our Woodleaf senses in war are indeed dull. Yamanaka Inoichi looked dignified, not to mention the preparation and mobilization for war. there are not many people who have a premonition of war vigilance. The outbreak of war in this case is undoubtedly very unfavorable to Woodleaf's situation. As if seeing the clouds of war, Asma couldn't help but be nervous. How long before the war breaks out? It might never erupt, or it might erupt tomorrow. The sadness between Yamanaka and Noichi's eyebrows lingered. In short, there's not much time left for us, Woodleaf. Garashi crossed his arms and pondered for a moment. So, my idea is to postpone the detonation of the war slightly. Yamanaka and Noichi hurriedly asked, is there any way to do this? Garashi exhaled heavily, let's unite all the ninja villages and have a grand Chunin exam. Ha, Woodleaf, your future Naruto is back. Asma shouted as soon as he returned to Woodleaf. Garashi and Red stood a little further away from him, worried that others would see that they were together. Yamanaka and Noichi was still immersed in shock and thought, so he didn't care. Garashi, Red, I'm going to report the mission to Lord Naruto. You two can find a place to rest. After that, he left with a heavy heart. It's rare to see Yamanaka-sensei so heavy. Knowing this kind of thing, it's inevitable to be a little worried. Anyway, what happens next has nothing to do with us. Garashi smiled and invited, what you have to think about now is where to go for dinner later. Barbecue restaurant. Ramen restaurant. What do you know, barbecue is a man's romance. Humph. Then I'll say ramen is a woman's tenderness. The three laughed all the way, and as soon as they walked into the gourmet street, they heard a familiar noise in front of them. Bastard Kakashi, you're not allowed to steal my mission target. Oh. Damn, what does "oh" mean? Bordered Soil was furious, and someone's teasing voice suddenly came from behind. I guess Kakashi must want to say that Bordered Soil is too slow or something. I'm obviously very fast. Bordered Soil turned back angrily and instantly became happy. Garashi, sensei, you're back. Kakashi and Rin also turned back happily. Garashi, sensei. Asma, who was ignored again, was almost depressed. He rolled his eyes and took the initiative to ask, by the way, Bordered Soil, did you just come back from a mission? Looking at you, you should have completed a very difficult mission, right? Bordered Soil wiped his nose and smiled proudly, we completed a B-level mission. Wow. That's amazing. Asma was very flattering. Bordered Soil was still too naive, completely unaware of the danger approaching. Instead, he touched the back of his head embarrassedly. Actually, it's okay, it's just a so-so. By the way, what level of mission did you complete? Oh, we can't do it, we're not even sure about the level of the mission, but... Asma said with a sad face, killing 2 rock Crypsis Jonin and dozens of Chunin and Genin, it's just a so-so. Pfft. Not only Bordered Soil, but even the cold Kakashi spat out. What's the situation? 2 Jonin. And they're not just Jonin from a small ninja village. If you add the dozens of Chunin and Genin that Asma said, just in terms of the scale of the enemy, it's already the standard of an S-level mission, right? Asma was still not satisfied. He smacked his lips and said, although we killed quite a lot of enemies, but the result doesn't seem to be much, it's just making a country that has turned to rock Crypsis to become neutral again. 2 Doggy. Looking at Asma's face, Bordered Soil and the other 2 cursed in their hearts. Seeing the three's face turn green, Asma's mood of being ignored finally became a little better. Speaking of which, my mission. Without waiting for him to finish, Kakashi rushed up with cold eyes. Woodleaf's secret body jutsu, Millennium Kill. Awoo. After a bit of noise, everyone finally returned to a peaceful state. However, Bordered Soil and the other 2 were still shocked. Garashi, senpai, did you really kill 2 rock Crypsis Jonins? Garashi waved his hand and smiled. It's not as exaggerated as Asma said, those 2 rock Crypsis Jonins were set up to fight each other, and the last one was killed by us. Although Garashi said it lightly, Bordered Soil and the other 2 understood the difficulty of it. Not to mention how to make 2 rock Crypsis Jonins fight to the death, just killing the remaining Jonin without any injuries is already amazing enough. Not to mention, there were dozens of Chunin and Genin. Bordered Soil bit his finger, envious. Too powerful, I don't know when I can kill a jonin. Kakashi's eyes were blazing with fighting spirit. Garashi, senpai has become more powerful, I also want to become stronger. Hee, you know our. As Asuma spoke, he saw a few cold gazes directed at him. He hurriedly covered his tender buttocks and didn't dare to tease them anymore. Let's go eat together. Speaking of eating, Bordered Soil suddenly woke up. Right, I thought you couldn't make it back in time, so I forgot to say, Garashi, senpai, our patriarch wants to invite you to his son's full moon celebration. Chapter 92. At the same time, in Naruto's office. Sandaime held the pipe in one hand and held his forehead with the other. You mean, most of Kusagakure has been infiltrated by Rock Crypsis, and then you not only found out who betrayed Wood Leaf, but also killed 2 Rock Crypsis jonin? Yamanaka nodded and then added, there are also 5 chunin and 27 genin. Sandaime only felt his blood pressure rising a little, and he quickly calmed down. After a long while, the 3rd generation exclaimed in surprise, you guys have really given me a huge surprise, to the point that I'm starting to wonder if I'm dreaming. Yamanaka quickly said, this time we can have such a harvest, in fact, it's all thanks to Garashi. Sandaime nodded slightly, designing internal strife, swapping bodies, these operations really made an old man like me dazzled. However, what surprised me the most is that he was able to convince even those who hate Konoha from the bottom of their hearts. This kind of charisma. I have only seen it in Shodaime-sama. Saying that, he sighed again, I was worried that this task would be dangerous, but I didn't expect that you raised the difficulty of the task by 2 levels, and you didn't encounter any danger during the whole process. I can now imagine how Asuma will show off to me when he goes back. Yamanaka couldn't help but laugh. According to his understanding of Asuma, this kind of thing is indeed very likely. After all, this is an achievement that even Naruto-sama couldn't achieve. Sandaime laughed for a while, and his face became dignified again. As for the information you just mentioned about the disappearance of the Kazekage, in fact, the village has already received the news. What do you think about this? Yamanaka hesitated. This kind of thing, Shikaku should know better than me, right? Sandaime smiled, I also discussed with him. Now, I want to hear your opinion as the person involved in the task. Since Sandaime had already said this, Yamanaka and Noichi had no choice but to say the speculation that he had previously discussed with Shushi. War. This is indeed the eternal theme of this world. Sandaime sighed and took out a few documents from the drawer and put them in front of Yamanaka and Noichi. Take a look. These are some changes in other villages. Yamanaka and Noichi read carefully. At first, he was calm, but when he saw the last document, his pupils shrank instantly. Yunin's army has started to move out frequently. Yamanaka and Noichi's face was very ugly. The closest big villages to Yunin are only our Wood Leaf and Kirin. However, Kirin is far away from the mainland. It is easy to defend and difficult to attack. The only one who can be a target is our Wood Leaf. Sandaime also shook his head with a bitter smile. We can't say that Yunin went for Rock Crypsis or Sand Crypsis, right? Yamanaka and Noichi hurriedly asked, Naruto-sama, where are our current war preparations? It's still the first stage. Sandaime looked sad, and his eyebrows twisted into a group. Whether it's armaments or drills, we are far inferior to Yunin. Alas. What we need most now is time, but the enemy won't give us time. Hearing this, Yamanaka and Noichi hesitated and asked, Naruto-sama, what if we hold a joint Chunin exam for all ninja villages? Joint Chunin exam? Sandaime's eyebrows twitched. In addition to attracting the attention of all parties and delaying the outbreak of war, we can also use this Chunin exam to test the position of all countries, and at the same time declare force and try to win over other small ninja villages as much as possible. Yamanaka and Noichi added. Sandaime didn't immediately state his position, but said, suddenly proposing a Chunin exam at this time is likely to alert other villages, and most of them won't agree to our invitation. Yamanaka and Noichi nodded, so, this can't be opened by us. Sandaime finally got a little interested, then, Who do you think should propose it? Yamanaka and Noichi smiled. Naruto, Sama, have you heard about the changes in Kirin's graduation exam this year? Sandame took a puff of his pipe. You mean, the young man who killed all the candidates and forced Kirin to reform? Yes, I heard that his name is Momochi if you don't kill. Yamanaka and Noichi's mouth showed an evil smile. We can let the spies planted in Kirin encourage the high-level officials to hold the Chunin exam. The reason is that there may be a gap in the talents of Kirin. In order to balance the power of the villages, let the boy if you don't kill Momochi kill all the candidates of other villages in the Chunin exam. Sandame's eyes lit up, understanding Yamanaka and Noichi's idea. Kirin is far abroad, and it's impossible to hold the Chunin exam, and they should also understand this truth. As long as they can balance the power of the villages, most of them won't insist on this issue. Yamanaka and Noichi nodded. In this way, Kirin is just an advocate, and we can take the opportunity to take the initiative to be the organizer. Sandame pondered for a moment, but the other 3 villages can't sit back and watch Woodleaf expand his influence. Yamanaka and Noichi solemnly said, so, we may have to pay a little price. Price? Sandame quickly understood and blew a smoke ring. The only thing that can attract the other villages should be the precious legacy left by the former Kage, right? You want to say that part of the forbidden jutsu in the Book of Seals will be the reward for the Chunin exam? Yamanaka and Noichi added, if there is no seal, they can take back the reward. Otherwise, the other villages won't give in to the benefits that the young ninja in their village may get. Sandame smiled bitterly. Inoichi, you have given me a big problem. If they take away the forbidden jutsu, I won't have the face to see the former Kage. Sandame really has a headache. Even if he excludes the super dangerous forbidden jutsu like Edo Tensei, those relatively ordinary forbidden jutsu will be very troublesome to spread. Not to mention, Danzo will definitely use this to attack and force him to give up his position. According to the information we have received, in recent years, there have been several very powerful newcomers in other villages, but Yamanaka and Noichi shrugged. Compared with them, our Woodleaf is cheating. Sandame smiled knowingly. That's right. Asking Garashi to take the Chunin exam can no longer be described as excessive. It's simply shameless. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. It's a pity that Kakashi was promoted to Chunin at the age of 6. Otherwise, we can let the other villages feel the enthusiasm of our Woodleaf. Yamanaka and Noichi's eyes twitched wildly. Naruto, Sama, you don't want to be a human anymore? Seeing Sandame's tendency to let go of himself, Yamanaka and Noichi quickly patched it up. In fact, our main purpose is to delay the war. If we can't be the organizer, it will only have some impact on the small ninja villages. Sandame waved his hand indifferently. I still have the courage to use the Book of Seals, and I also believe that the child Garashi won't let me down. Now, the biggest problem is how to make Kirin believe that if you don't kill has the ability to kill all the candidates. Or, just brag about it. If it doesn't work, we can join forces with the Sand Crypsis to launch the Chunin exam. They should need time like us now. Chapter 93. Uchiha Clan. It was very lively outside, but it was very quiet inside. Yagadame-sama, you should have also noticed the aura of war, right? I wasn't sure at first, but since Patriarch said so, then it seems inevitable. Fugaku said with a dignified expression, as the most powerful clan in the Woodleaf Empire, it is inevitable for us to participate in the war, and I don't oppose it, but I am worried that someone will use this opportunity to suppress our clan. Hakadame-sama squinted his eyes. Is it the one who claims to have continued the will of second Naruto? Fugaku couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seems that Danzo's malice towards our clan has reached the point where he doesn't even bother to hide it. Hakadame-sama shook his head slightly. Even if we know, there is nothing we can do. Patriarch, what do you think? Fugaku pondered for a moment. Although it is a bit unreasonable to say this, I still propose to focus on protecting the younger generation of the clan who awakened the Sharingan. Hakadame-sama nodded in agreement. The Kekkei Genkai is the foundation of a clan, like the Kurama clan. It is because the younger generation who awakened their Kekkei Genkai is getting fewer and fewer, that's why they are gradually declining. Speaking of the Kurama clan, Fugaku said with some emotion. Last time when I was taking care of Mikoto in the hospital, I happened to meet the patriarch of the Kurama clan. His child was born a few days earlier than Itachi, but there was no movement in the village. Hakadame-sama also sighed. A declining clan, no one will care about it. That's why we have to try our best to preserve the foundation of the clan. Fugaku looked outside. My idea is to let the younger generation of the clan who awakened their Sharingan join the ranks of those who are kind to our clan, or those who are neutral. Hakadame-sama suddenly realized, so, you invited so many guests today to test their position? Fugaku sighed. I can't think of a good way in a short time. I can only say that we should avoid Danzo as much as possible. Hakadame-sama nodded. I will go with you to observe the attitude of others. Both of them were a little depressed. The Uchiha clan that was once famous during the Warring States period has now fallen to the point of being scared by a mummy. Seeing the atmosphere was a little dull, Hakadame-sama jokingly said, but is it really good to do this? If you treat a newborn Itachi as a tool, be careful that he will take revenge on you in the future. Fugaku laughed carelessly. We are clearly a father and a son who is filial. Hakadai also laughed. Hurry up and go out. It's not right for you to stay in the house all the time. Outside. The children sat at a table by themselves. Tell me about it, tell me about it. Obito tugged at Shushi's sleeve and begged with a pitiful look on his face. Garashi calmly pulled out his sleeve and said helplessly, you should ask Asma about the details. He will be happy to tell you. The image of Asma's huge dog's smile appeared in front of the bordered soil. The corner of his mouth twitched. Forget it. Xiao Nian, on the other hand, was howling madly from the side. Oh whoa, too powerful, really too powerful. Seeing Xiao Nian almost transformed on the spot, Hakadame-sama, who was walking out with Fugaku, came over with a black face and slapped him on the back of his head. Pay attention to the ending, don't lose face for the patriarch. Xiao Nian, who was interrupted, turned back with a wronged face. Am I not excited? Hakadame-sama said angrily, you are a Chunin, can't you be more calm like Garashi? Xiao Nian whispered, what's wrong with being a Chunin? Even 2 Chunin were killed by Garashi. Hakadame-sama's eyes widened. What did you say? Xiao Nian winked provocatively. Calm, Chunin. Ouch, why did you hit me again? Hakadame-sama looked calm. I have double standards, what's wrong? Shunian instantly retreated. Well, it's Shushi who killed 2 Jonins of the Rock Village and dozens of Chunin and Genin during this mission. Well, he is indeed the man I admire. Hakadame-sama and Fugaku looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They knew that Yamanaka Inoichi was not the kind of Chunin with strong combat power. In other words, this result was mostly related to Garashi's team. And in their view, Asma and Kurenai were still a little immature. In this way, only Garashi could create a miracle. Thinking of this, Fugaku couldn't help but sigh. It's a pity that you are too young, Garashi. Otherwise, I would ask you to be Itachi's godfather. Hearing this, Garashi couldn't help but twitch his mouth. This guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes actually wants to harm me. It was night when the banquet ended. Shushi returned to his room and sat cross-legged on his bed. His eyes were shining brightly. Sure enough, this is what I'm lacking. With the experience of switching bodies as a reference, this last hurdle won't hold me back. Thinking of this, Garashi closed his eyes. The next moment, a pure white spiritual body floated out from the top of his head. Is this the soul state? The spiritual body floated back and forth in the air curiously. Then, it looked at its body that seemed to have fallen asleep. This feeling is indeed wonderful. After a little adapting to this state, Garashi's spiritual body returned to his body. Like a small fish that jumped out of the sea and fell back into the sea, comfortable and peaceful. With my most powerful soul talent, years of training in Genjutsu, and Kato Duan's experience, and 5 months of training, plus this last personal experience, I finally succeeded. Garashi exhaled and shook his head gently. Sure enough, any S-class ninjutsu is not so easy to learn. However, with the spiritualization technique, I can finally covet that ability. Garashi's eyes were slightly burning. With his current strength, the spiritualization technique can't bring any increase in combat power. However, he never valued the spiritualization technique because of its combat power, but because of the development of the ability attached to the spiritualization technique. Wait, let's calm down first. Don't be impatient. Wait until I fully adapt to the spiritualization technique before moving on to the next step. Garashi muttered to himself, and his eyes returned to the calm state of an ancient well. Many plans were aborted at the last moment before they succeeded. Of course, he wouldn't make such a mistake. After half an hour of adapting to the new environment and setting up a barrier around him, Rinstone returned to his spirit form and looked around. In my previous life's memory, the soul can also be seen by others. Although it's troublesome, for safety's sake, it's better to go underground. Thinking of this, Garashi no longer hesitated and jumped into the ground. In his spiritual body state, he naturally wouldn't be obstructed by the rocks and soil. The only problem he had to consider was the direction. Fortunately, he had already memorized the layout of the Woodleaf clan. The speed at which the spirit body moved was extremely fast. It was as if the spirit body could move at will. Not long after, he arrived at his destination, the Pommel clan's land. This once famous Woodleaf clan had gradually declined under the baptism of time. Garashi didn't care about this. His spiritual body flashed and moved into a warm room. On the bed, a couple had already fallen asleep. On the side of the bed, there was a small cradle. Garashi no longer hesitated, and his spiritual body flew into the baby's body in the cradle. In the next moment, the sleeping baby opened her eyes. This is the Pommel clan's bloodline limit? It's really magical. Using the baby girl's body, Shushi was able to sense the potential and power of this blood inheritance. Next, it's time to analyze and deduce the composition of this bloodline limit. He valued the spiritualization technique for this reason. With the experience of personally using it, it was equivalent to seeing the whole process of the derivation in front of him. I hope that I can complete this bloodline limit before the war ends. Otherwise, some of my ideas won't be easy to realize. Chapter 94. Kirin. Looking at the thick fog in the sky, Sanin Shangqing closed the door and windows in disgust. Sigh, when will this end? Sanin Shangqing sighed and began his routine work. Summoning technique. The next moment, a pug appeared at his feet. The pug glanced at him. After confirming that there was no mistake, it spat out the paper tube in its mouth. Oh, the village finally remembered me. Sanin Shangqing was excited. He carefully picked up the paper tube, spread it out, quickly memorized it, and quickly burned the paper. Then he frowned and sat on the chair. Spread rumors? If you don't kill Momochi? Although Kirin is overseas and not well informed, it's still difficult to make them believe that if you don't kill is invincible. After thinking for a moment, Sanin Shangqing had a flash of inspiration. First, let's use if you don't kill Momochi to warm up the atmosphere, then I'll assassinate him, fake my death, and finally spread the news that Woodleaf is afraid of him. In this way, the anger of their own village's genius being assassinated, coupled with the desire to suppress other villages, maybe Kirin will think that the Chunin exam is a good choice. Thinking of this, Sanin Shangqing quickly arranged his own fake death to escape. Well, finally, I can leave this damn place. A few days later, if you don't kill, who was walking on the street as usual, found that the eyes of the people around him changed a lot. He's if you don't kill Momochi? The bastard who killed my brother in the graduation exam? Keep your voice down, he's a monster proficient in silent assassination. I heard that he's going to kill again in the Chunin exam. Humph. This kind of monster should go to other villages as soon as possible. Yeah, if he can kill ninjas from other villages in the Chunin exam, he'll be a little useful. If you don't kill stopped and looked at them coldly. The murderous intent almost froze the blood of the villagers, and they fled in panic. A bunch of trash. If you don't kill whispered contemptuously while licking his dry lips, but, the Chunin exam, at this moment, his heart throbbed, and he subconsciously dodged to the side. Boom! A flame dragon almost brushed past his body and blasted a hole in the ground. Assassination? If you don't kill was not afraid. Instead, there was a faint excitement in his eyes. Water release, chaotic water wave. Seeing the turbulent water rushing towards him, Mikami was slightly surprised. He can use a C-class ninjutsu so skillfully. If you don't kill seems to be very powerful. But, this is good. This way, I won't have to waste any extra effort to prove his talent. Min Shangqing knew that Kirin's dark unit would arrive soon. If he didn't hurry up, he would really die. Therefore, according to his original plan, he deliberately used the most beautiful ninjutsu to prove his strength. Fire release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. Water release, Water Dragon Bullet Technique. Are you kidding me? A 9-year-old kid can use a B-class ninjutsu? Min Shangqing's eyes widened, and he almost screamed. This is also because he has been away from home all year round. He didn't know that Woodleaf was even worse than this. At this moment, seeing the ferocious water dragon rushing towards him, Min Shangqing's face instantly turned pale. I was worried about accidentally killing him, so I deliberately changed the direction of the ninjutsu. He can't even use a ninjutsu accurately. Is this idiot coming to die? If you don't kill's eyes were cold, and his hands quickly printed. Water release, Water Tooth Bullet. Another B-class ninjutsu. Are the kids these days so exaggerated? Min Shangqing, who just escaped from the water dragon, saw two highly compressed and rotating, sharp teeth, coming towards him, and he didn't have time to think about it. If I underestimate this kid again, I may really die. Fire release, Fire Dragon Technique. The water and fire collided, and a scorching hot fog instantly rose. The fog shrouded the surroundings. If you don't kill simply burst out all the chakra in his body at once. Silent killing. What the hell is that? Min Shangqing saw a ghostly dark red stream of air flashing through the thick fog, and his hair was a little numb. No, I have to run for my life. But he just took half a step. If you don't kill judged his position from the sound. Ah! A painful scream came from the thick fog, and the villagers in the distance were scared for a while. When the thick fog dispersed, the Umbu who came late saw the situation inside. In the ground of minced meat, if you don't kill stood there quietly, and his face was a little gloomy. This is Woodleaf's forehead protector. A sharp-eyed Umbu picked up a forehead protector from the minced meat. It's Woodleaf's people. If you don't kill, did you see the enemy's face? If you don't kill looked at him coldly, and turned away without saying a word. The hidden fog dark group member who asked the question was furious. This bastard, does he really think he's some big shot? The Umbu on the side pulled him, being assassinated. I guess this guy is not happy. Another Umbu also said, in any case, he killed a Woodleaf spy, and it seems that he's not an ordinary Chunin. Let's go report to Mizukichi-sama first. In the distance, under the rock wall, Sanyuan Shangqing, who was covered in blood, was sweating profusely. Trembling, he grabbed a handful of blood-increasing pills and threw them into his mouth. After a long time, his pale face had a little color. That was close. If I didn't let Xiao Hei hear my voice, maybe I would have died in the hands of a genin. At the same time, Min Shangqing was worried. Although I was careless, this kid is really powerful. Naruto-sama shouldn't have misjudged, right? If he really appeared in the Chunin exam, it would be a complete massacre against our Woodleaf's genin. Soon, Woodleaf's forehead protector and Min Shangqing's previous residence were sent to the Mizukichi. Kimura Kazuki, it should be a fake name. The Mizukichi's face was gloomy as he looked around, lurking for so long without being discovered. Your intelligence is really slow. The Umbu around him bowed their heads in shame. However, a spy lurking for so long exposed himself for if you don't kill. The Mizukichi narrowed his eyes and asked, what do you think? An Umbu replied, maybe if you don't kill said that he would kill everyone in the Chunin exam. That Woodleaf ninja is worried that we will hold the Chunin exam? Maybe? The Mizukichi emphasized his tone. Confirmed. The Umbu who spoke was depressed. That guy didn't cooperate at all. He could only take it as a yes. Another Umbu also said, according to the intelligence, Sandame Naruto's son also graduated this year. Maybe Woodleaf is worried that if you don't kill we'll meet him? Another Umbu said, our genin was killed by if you don't kill, why not take this opportunity to suppress the genin of other villages? Speaking of this, the other Umbu suddenly became active. Yes, if you don't kill can even kill Woodleaf's special jonin, it will definitely be a massacre against the genin of other villages. If there is an important person like Naruto's son in the Chunin exam, we may be able to threaten other villages to get resources. The Mizukage didn't speak, only the sound of his fingers tapping on the table echoed in the room. After a long time, he said indifferently, well, it's time to let the ninja world remember the horror of Kirin. Chapter 95. Yunin. The Raikage held his head with one hand and tapped on the document with the other. Kirin proposed to hold the joint Chunin exam. What do you think about this? As a trusted aide of the Raikage, Sudai said after a moment of silence. Maybe it's to strengthen the influence of Kirin. They're far away from the 5 great villages, and they're almost removed from the list of the 5 great villages. On the other side, the alternate Raikage, AI, who has inherited the title of Raikage, said. Then let's hold it. Yunin is definitely the strongest in the ninja world. The surrounding jonins nodded heavily. In their view, Woodleaf is old and weak, Rock Crypsis is timid and cowardly, Sand Crypsis is weak and arrogant, Kirin is remote and backward, and the 4 great villages are not worth mentioning. Only Yunin should be thriving and become the center of the world. The Raikage nodded. I think so too. Before the war, we should declare our strength, at least let those small countries see who's the boss of the world. Now the question is, who should hold the Chunin exam? As soon as his voice fell, the jonins in the room discussed fiercely. Of course, it should be held by our Yunin. Are you an idiot? What if other villages take this opportunity to inquire about our military strength? Woodleaf seems to have also made a request. No, even if we don't hold it, we can't give it to Woodleaf. But the rewards they offered are very tempting. They also said that we can hold it, but we must offer the same level of rewards. Are you kidding me? Our Yunin has always been a one-way ticket. Enough. The Raikage raised his right hand and motioned them to be quiet. Send someone to tell Woodleaf that I agree to their request. Raikage-sama, Woodleaf is in a hurry to give us a gift, then I have to accept it. The Raikage said and looked to the side. Sudai, let Yuki graduate early. Tai's eyes lit up. You want to, although she's only 8 years old, a Jinchuriki is still a Jinchuriki. The Raikage laughed wildly. If you encounter an enemy you can't beat, just let her break the seal. Tai said in shock, remove the seal. What if second last escapes? The Raikage laughed, that's something Woodleaf has to worry about. Since he wants to be the organizer, he has to take some risks. At worst, we can thank Woodleaf for his efforts. The surrounding jonins looked at him with admiration, as he was worthy of being the Raikage-sama. Although he looked boorish and irritable, he was actually very cunning. Sand Crypsis. How is it? Is there still no news from Kazekage-sama? Old C asked in a deep voice. Raza, the temporary Kazekage, shook his head. However, the Kazekage is the strongest Kage in the history of our Sand Crypsis. With his strength, he won't die so easily. I hope so. Our Sand Crypsis is now a joke in the shinobi world. Chio said faintly. Although it's a bit unreasonable to say this. Ebizo looked around at everyone in the room, but if we continue to search, it will only make the defense force become understaffed, and in the current situation of the shinobi world, it's really not a wise decision. Hearing what he said, the jonins of the original Kazekage faction were furious. Old C, what do you mean by this? If you say this, don't tell me that you and your brother assassinated the Kazekage? Yes, Chio, your genius grandson seems to have disappeared. Maybe you were worried about your assassination so you deliberately sent him away. Raza, say something. Raza was a little helpless. From a rational point of view, he naturally agreed with Old C's proposal. But from a reasonable point of view, as the temporary Kazekage, if he gave up looking for the former Kazekage, what would others think of him? Sand Crypsis is bound to have internal conflicts. Seeing the quarrel between the two sides getting more and more intense, Raza had to use his power as the Kazekage. That's enough, quiet down. If you still recognize me as the temporary Kazekage. Seeing the others looking at him, Raza said seriously, the current situation is not optimistic for us, and we don't have time to quarrel over such meaningless things. First, the mission of searching for the third Kazekage will continue. Second, agree to Kirin's proposal for the joint Chunin exam. After the tense situation calmed down, Raza further added, the news of Kazekage-sama's disappearance is estimated to be known by all the villages. If we give up the search easily, it will only make the other villages look down on us and see how weak we are. Of course, old C. Senpai's question is also very pertinent. The key is time, and what we lack is time, and Kirin's proposal for the joint Chunin exam just meets our current needs. All the Jonins nodded in agreement. Although Raza is young, his ability is really outstanding. Raza, who are you going to take the Chunin exam as the team leader? Let Marky go. Although he's not the top genius, he graduated a few years ago. In terms of experience and actual combat, he's not comparable to ordinary genin. Well, even if we want to delay time, we can't lose momentum. Rock Crypsis. Tell me, what's going on? Anoki's face was very ugly. All the Jonins looked at each other, and finally, Hokage stood up and said, Tsuchikage-sama, it's indeed as the Kusanagi said. There are traces of a fierce battle with Kurwashi on Yongdo's body. Even if there were Yamanaka ninjas present, it's absolutely impossible to control a Jonin for such a long time. In addition, we also found some of Kurwashi's previous movements, so he probably really betrayed Rock Crypsis. They didn't doubt Wu Wei, but the conclusion showed that he didn't lie. After all, Wu Wei was telling the truth, in a sense. A traitor ruined dozens of our elites, and most of our plans in Kusanagi. It's simply unforgivable. Anoki gritted his teeth and cursed. If not for the fact that Blackstone was so dead that not even his ashes were left, he would have wanted to use dust escape on Blackstone's corpse. The group of Jonins were also furious and started cursing. Anoki was silent for a while, and then raised his hand to stop them. Well, let's let this matter be sealed forever. If we continue to make trouble, we will only be laughed at by other villages. After a pause, Anoki asked, what do you think about the joint Chunin exam? Magic Leech said, I think it's okay to use this as a reason to divert the internal conflicts of the village. Oishi also nodded, after all, dozens of families lost their loved ones because of a traitor, the impact is too bad. As for Woodleaf's proposal, they may want to take the opportunity to expand their influence in those small countries. After all, there are 9 small countries bordering them. Hokuto calmly analyzed. However, this won't have much impact on Rock Crypsis. At the same time, there are 3 countries bordering us and Woodleaf, the Rain Country, the Grass Country, and the Waterfall Country. The Rain Country has Hanzo the Salamander, and Kusanagi is still biased towards us, so the only loss for the organizers is the Waterfall Country. On the other hand, we can use this to find out the real situation of Woodleaf and their military distribution. Besides, didn't they also give out a reward? No matter how you look at it, we won't lose. Anoki pondered for a moment. Tell Woodleaf that we agree. Chapter 96. Woodleaf Hospital. Ah. Tachikamaru, bear with it. In the ward, a big orange dog was lying on the bed and whining in pain. Only when a tall ninja approached it did it manage to remain calm. The tall ninja gently stroked its hair and glanced at the dark green wound on the dog's abdomen. His eyes were full of pain and self-blame. Inazuki-san, please try to keep it calm. Yeah, we can't check it at all. The surrounding medical ninjas were helpless. They were almost bitten when they tried to get close. If they applied medicine to it, wouldn't they be torn apart? Inazuka also knew their difficulties and didn't blame them. He just kept comforting Tachikamaru. At this time, a reassuring voice came from outside the door. Sorry, Garashi, I used Flying Thunder God to rush you here. It's okay, saving people is the duty of a medical ninja, Garashi and Minato walked in side by side. Minato smiled awkwardly. What if it's to save a dog? Garashi also saw the situation in the ward at this moment and said helplessly, "It seems that I can only temporarily act as a veterinarian." After saying that, Shushi walked up to the table without looking back. "Wait, be careful." Before Inuzuka could finish his words, he saw his dog whimper under the touch of the child and betrayed him. What's going on? Inuzuka's jaw was at a loss. His Tachikamaru was the most irritable among the ninja dogs, and now it was injured. How could it be so docile to a child it met for the first time? Garashi smiled apologetically. "Unrelated personnel, please leave temporarily." Inuzuka's jaw pointed to himself. "Me, unrelated personnel?" Minato next to him hugged him and dragged him away. "Garashi, rest assured." Outside the door, Inuzuka's jaw was still a little worried. "Minato, is this okay?" After all, he just heard the child say that he was a temporary veterinarian. Minato smiled. "Don't worry, Garashi is Tsunade-sama's proud disciple." Inuzuka's jaw's eyes lit up. "He's Shimizu Garashi? I heard that his medical skills are almost second only to Tsunade-sama." Minato patted him on the shoulder. "This is your chance to make friends with Garashi. Don't blame me for not telling you." Inuzuka's jaw nodded emotionally. In this thorny ninja world, it's really important to have a good relationship with a powerful medical ninja. "I will definitely." Creak. The door opened and Garashi walked out. Inuzuka's jaw hurriedly asked, "Dr. Garashi, how is Tachikamaru's condition? Have your injuries stabilized?" Garashi said calmly, "It's done." Inuzuka's jaw was dumbfounded. "That's it? That's a powerful poison concocted by Sand Crypsis Jonin." Garashi smiled and pointed at the room. "Why don't we go in and take a look?" "Oh, right." Inuzuka's jaw was about to rush in, but he forced himself to stop and bowed 90 degrees. "Thank you very much." Garashi smiled slightly. This is the most comfortable place for a top medical ninja. He doesn't need to worry at all. There will be a large group of people rushing to give him experience. After the experience, he can also gain their gratitude. Minato was still a little apologetic. "I'm sorry for pulling you here in such a hurry." Garashi smiled helplessly. "Brother Minato, we don't have to talk about our relationship, right? Of course, next time, let's make things clear in advance. Seeing you so nervous, I thought something happened to Shinakushina ne-san." Minato laughed twice. "Inuzuka-san has always taken care of me. Tachikamaru was poisoned to cover us." Shushi took note of the message. "A temporary team?" Minato nodded, looking a little depressed. "This time we have a team of 3 jonins. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be too much of a problem. But who knew, as soon as we sneaked in, we encountered more than a dozen jonins from Sand Crypsis. If it weren't for the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, we wouldn't have been able to come back this time." Garashi was a little speechless. It seems that this can't be described as bad luck. However, sneaking in at this time, Naruto-sama wants you to find out if Sand Crypsis has found Kazekage? Probably. Minato replied casually and suddenly reacted. "Garashi, how do you know Kazekage? We just learned a little inside information from the last mission." "So?" Minato was talking when Asuma ran all the way from a distance. "Garashi, big news, big news." "Hey, Minato-san, you're here too?" Looking at Asuma's rash appearance, Minato's eyes were a little strange. "Should I say that this is the product of Naruto-sama?" Asuma didn't care about Minato's reaction and said excitedly, "The other 4 villages have agreed, and 11 of those small countries have confirmed to participate. In other words, this may be the largest Chunin exam since the era of shinobi villages." Asuma shouted with pride. "And this is the Chunin exam held by Woodleaf. Sandaime actually agreed to use those jutsu as a reward." Garashi wasn't surprised that Sandaime agreed to the proposal of the Chunin exam. After all, this is indeed beneficial to Woodleaf's current situation. What surprised him was that Sandaime actually had the courage to use forbidden jutsu as a stake. If he accidentally used a few of the jutsu handed down by Nidaime Naruto, even if it's advantageous from a macro-strategic point of view, he would definitely be criticized by Danzo. For me now, strengthening my body and increasing the upper limit of chakra are the most important things. I already have enough jutsu. Unless it's a jutsu that controls the 5 senses, I don't need to spend too much energy on ordinary jutsu. My need for the Scroll of Seals is just to enrich my knowledge and prepare for the development of Kekkei Genkai in the future. Compared to the reward, I actually value the Chunin exam more. Garashi said with some emotion. He's too young, and the limitation of his age will be the biggest stumbling block for him to achieve his dreams. So, I want to become famous as soon as possible, and use this Chunin exam as a starting point for me to truly step on the stage of Shinobi World. Thinking of this, Garashi's calm mind couldn't help but have a little wave. As for the assassination targets after becoming famous, he doesn't care, and he's even happy to have more of them. With the support of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and his own medical ninjutsu, there are still many people in the world who can defeat him, but there are almost no people who can completely kill him. Not to mention, his trump cards are far more than just these two. On the side, Asuma waved his arm discontentedly. Huh? Are you listening to me, Shushi? Garashi smiled apologetically. Sorry, I was also shocked by the scene you described. Asuma patted him on the shoulder. Then you have to listen carefully this time, the old man said. Let you, cough, he said that one of us must win first place. Chapter 97. In Shina Kushina's house. Ah. Why did I become a Chunin so early? I missed such a good opportunity to show my face. Schwennen-san, don't regret it, no one will care about the stars when there is a sun. Damn it. I should be the moon, right? Impossible. Of course, the moon is me, Asuma. Don't quarrel, aren't we here to analyze the strength of the major ninja villages? That being said, everyone was noisy, and there was no worry or pressure. In their view, there is no one who can be stronger than Garashi in the Genin stage. There are a total of 24 ninjas in Kirin village, if you don't kill Empress Shomiai. Kurinai analyzed seriously, and seeing Garashi's expression was a little strange, she couldn't help but ask, is there a problem, Garashi? Garashi smiled gently. It's nothing, you continue to analyze. Kurinai nodded her head. Naruto-sama said that this information is not completely accurate, but according to the existing information, the most threatening ninja in Kirin is if you don't kill. Oh, if you don't kill is now more famous than the future Mizukage? Garashi only felt a little funny, but then he understood. The current Empress Shomiai probably hasn't developed her own Kekkei Genkai yet. After all, although Kirin is not as dark as the 4th Mizukage after the dark-bordered soil, the prejudice against Kekkei Genkai still exists because of its remote and backward background. If Empress Shomiai was born with 2 Kekkei Genkai, then her life in Kirin will definitely not be easy. Beside him, Kurinai was still seriously analyzing. As for Yunin, there are a total of 66 ninjas. They are the 2 Yuki, Samui. Hearing this familiar name, Shushi's attention was also diverted. Of course, he wasn't focused because of a future, ferocious woman. Second last? Is Yunin trying to cheat because she can't win? Looking at the information that Sandaime had specifically given her, Red was a little surprised. Isn't Yunin being too aggressive this time? It seemed that many people were forced to graduate early. However, they don't seem to have any particularly amazing genin here. Garashi shook his head slightly. In his opinion, the biggest threat to the Chunin exam should be the Yuki. In the genin stage, Jinchuriki is completely unreasonable. But this is good. Garashi chuckled in his heart. The boring Chunin exam doesn't have anything to talk about. I can't be the only one singing a one-man show. Kurinai's analysis fast-forwarded to Sand Crypsis. There are 30 participants in Sand Crypsis. Among them, the most important one to pay attention to is a ninja named Marky. He is originally a genius in Sand Crypsis, and he is 3 years older than us. Garashi's eyes fluctuated slightly. Indeed, it was another acquaintance. Finally, there are 45 participants in Rock Crypsis. They are Purple Earth, Thunder. Garashi was really surprised when he heard the last part. There doesn't seem to be any acquaintances on Rock Crypsis's side. Did all the geniuses die in the future war, or did they not have any geniuses at all? That's it? After listening to the analysis, Asma shouted confidently, there aren't many who can fight at all. I, invincible under the rock, have already scheduled to meet Garashi in the finals. Ibixi glanced at him, what if you and Garashi meet in the qualifiers? Asma was dumbfounded. This. Kurenai covered her mouth and chuckled, of course, it's to defeat Garashi. I remember someone said 4 years ago that he could defeat Garashi in 4 years at most. Asma's momentum weakened, maybe I will break out that day. Garashi smiled and helped him out. Asma, didn't Naruto-sama say that we should try to win over the ninjas of those small countries? Asma, who was saved, quickly continued the topic. Yes, the old man is like this. Garashi, do you have a way? Garashi nodded slightly, I just need your help. At the same time, in the hotel where Yunin was staying. As the leader, Tsutai warned seriously, in this exam, not only will Reikage-sama appear in the final competition, but the other 4 villages Kages will also be present. Your performance represents the face of our Yunin, so you must show us the style of Yunin, understand? The group of Yunin's ninjas was like thunder, understood? Tsutai nodded with satisfaction, the others are dismissed first, but Yuki, stay. When the others left, Tsutai asked with a dignified face, you know the information of other villages, how confident are you in this exam? Yujito Ren swung her ponytail energetically. I will definitely win. Very good. Although there are many geniuses in other villages, they shouldn't pose any threat to you. Only. Tsutai's voice became heavy as he said, Wood Leaf, that's Shimizu Garashi. Once you meet him, just enter your tailed beast mode. Yuki puffed up her cheeks. But I want to defeat him with my own strength. For the kitten's proud reaction, Todai skillfully comforted it. Tailed beasts are originally part of the strength of a Jinchuriki, just like the puppet masters of the Sand Crypsis. Can you force them not to use puppets? Furthermore, that Shimizu Garashi is 2 years older than you. It would be unfair to limit your strength. In the hotel where Kirin was staying. Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi, Sand Crypsis's Marky, Rock Crypsis's Purple Earth. The 2 girls discussed seriously, and one of them looked at someone who didn't fit in next to her with dissatisfaction. If you don't kill, we are a team, you should listen carefully. If you don't kill, wipe the blade indifferently, women will only affect the speed of my sword. Violet Knight said angrily, what do you mean? If you don't kill, narrowed his eyes and looked at her, don't you understand? Don't hinder me from killing people, otherwise, I will kill you too. Empress Shomi I quickly stood up to appease the 2, and then said, if you don't kill, I know you are strong, but that Shimizu Garashi is known as the strongest genius of Woodleaf in 20 years. You will suffer if you underestimate him. If you don't kill, took off his mask and licked the dagger in his hand. It is interesting to kill people like him. Isn't it? On the sand side. Marky Dage, you must take first place in this exam. That's right, let the other villages know the power of Sand Crypsis. Although he was praised by everyone, Marky didn't lose his calm. Compared to those real geniuses, I only have the advantage of age, there is nothing to be proud of. He had seen real geniuses, and it was a gap that ordinary people could never surpass. If it is Sasori, he can definitely do it. Thinking of this, his mood became heavier. Shimizu Garashi, is he a genius like Sasori? As for Rock Crypsis, your enemy this time is Woodleaf, who used despicable means to plot against many of our excellent ninjas. Magic Leech, Sama, I heard that the despicable Woodleaf squad also participated in the Chunin exam. It is better to let us do it. Magic Leech frowned slightly. If you meet that squad, I allow you to escape directly. Purple Earth couldn't believe it. Magic Leech, Sama, how can we admit defeat to those despicable guys? Magic Leech's face was cold. Can't you hear what I said? Purple Earth's face turned red, but in the end, he bowed his head weakly. I know. Magic Leech didn't care and glanced at everyone, except for the Woodleaf squad. The other Woodleaf ninjas can be your prey, understand? Understood. Chapter 98. Look, that's a ninja from the Rain Country. That's a Hoshino from the Bear Country. Yunnan's people are also here, they're not easy to deal with. As time passed, more and more ninjas from other villages appeared in Konoha. The news of the joint Chunin exam also spread. In this regard, most of the villagers of Woodleaf were happy to see it. After all, holding such a grand Chunin exam is a symbol of national strength. At this moment, several Woodleaf ninjas were whispering to each other in an izakaya. Where is Sand Crypsis? I took a shortcut, they should be 2 minutes away. Where is Yunnan? About 3 minutes. The actors are already in place. Asma, let's watch your performance. Damn, why do I have to play such a retarded role? Really? It's obviously your style. What? Have I always been like this in your eyes? This is called great wisdom looks stupid. At least in the eyes of other villages, this kind of thing is very in line with your character. Ibiki urged. There's no time, hurry up. Asma muttered with a depressed face, but as soon as he stepped into the street, he instantly got into the mood. Bandana man over there, are you Marky from Sand Crypsis? The Sand Crypsis ninjas who were talking and laughing stopped and turned their heads to look at the side, only to see a gangster with a cigarette in his mouth shouting. Marky frowned and said coldly. That's me. I heard that you are the most powerful ninja in Sand Crypsis. You look very ordinary. In the eyes of the Sand Crypsis ninjas, Asma shrugged and said, sorry, I'm a straightforward person. You bastard. At this time, several ninjas of Yunnan happened to come to a fork in the road from another road. Huh. It seems that there is something interesting to watch. Yuki excitedly pulled his friend and squeezed through the crowd. Samui, let's go and take a look. No, this isn't cool at all. Samui resisted, but he was still dragged over. Marky stopped the underling who was about to make a move. Who are you? Do you want to fight? Asma pointed at himself with his thumb. My name is Asma, and I'm the second most powerful person among Woodleaf's genin. The third Naruto's son. Marky naturally knew about the other party's information, but he still found it hard to believe. Humph. One day, I'll make you call him Asma's father. Asma said rebelliously. Just as the intelligence said. Marky's mouth twitched. You came here just to tell me this? Asuma waved his hand impatiently. Some ignorant guys said that the 5 most famous ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages are the 5 most powerful ninjas in the Chunin exam. But I think that the first place of some villages may not be as good as the second place of Woodleaf. Well, maybe even Ibixi, that Woodleaf guy is not as good as him. In the distance, Kurenai looked at Ibixi in surprise. This is too cruel. You even want to ridicule your own script? Ibixi said with a dark face. He added it himself. Marky's underling beside him scolded angrily. Make it clear, who are you referring to by some villages? Asma sighed pretentiously. Do you want me to make it clear? It's Sand Crypsis, where your boss is missing, Yunnan, who is rushing to graduate, and Rock Crypsis, where a jonin can't beat a genin. Yuki, who was watching the show in the crowd, suddenly had a dark face and jumped out. Bastard. How dare you look down on our Yunnan? Asma showed a hint of surprise and immediately yawned. Sorry, I refuse to communicate with trainees like you. Yuki shouted angrily. Bastard, I'm going to hit you. Marky squinted his eyes. Wait for me to finish. I said it first. He came to me first. Asma said disdainfully. With just you? You, just as the few of them were about to draw their swords, a gentle voice cut in. Sorry, Asma has caused you trouble. Hey, Garashi, I didn't bully them. He's Shimizu Garashi. Yuki and Marky were shocked and looked at the boy who was talking. He was handsome, gentle, and refreshing. Just one look was enough to make people like him. However, they reacted quickly. Wait, what do you mean you didn't bully us? Asuma rubbed his fist. Do you want to be beaten up? Garashi pressed his shoulder. If you hurt a candidate before the exam, you will be banned from the exam. What do you mean? Are you saying that we will be hurt by him? Garashi waved his hand. Of course not. You must be very strong to be able to represent your village in the exam. Then let him fight with us. Garashi was surprised. 2 against 1. That's true. Both Yujito Ni and Marky were furious at Shushi's provocation. 1-on-1, it's a 1-on-1. Garashi looked embarrassed and finally smiled bitterly. Let's choose a method that won't hurt each other. Although the format and content of the exam changes every year, the venue generally doesn't change too much. Why don't we see who can pass through the forest of death the fastest? Yuki and Marky didn't want to be disqualified, so they had to agree. Just you wait, I will win. After the incident subsided, Asuma couldn't help but laugh. Huh, it's really smooth. Well, it's good that their team leader didn't follow them. After all, they have dozens of people, and those ninjas can't follow them every day. Asuma said. Of course, they can't follow them every day, otherwise, how can they gather information? Garashi shook his head slightly. Huh? Gather information? You don't think they're that honest, do you? Since they agreed to hold the exam in Woodleaf, they probably want to find out about our military distribution. What should we do? Should we hurry to remind the old man? Do you think Naruto-sama didn't think of this? Huh? Then why did they agree? Asuma was confused. Of course, because we don't have a military distribution at all. Garashi chuckled softly. Huh? Don't worry, it's too late for them to know now. On the one hand, the ninjas who came to participate in the exam are equivalent to hostages. On the other hand, Woodleaf's preparation should be completed soon. In short, they have missed the best time to act. Asuma had a strange look on his face. Then aren't they about to die from anger? Garashi sighed. They probably didn't expect that Woodleaf's military would be lax to this extent, right? Asuma shook his head and threw these complicated thoughts aside. By the way, Garashi, since you want to expand your influence, why don't you pull Kirin and Rock Crypsis in? If you defeat the 4 major ninja villages at once, won't the effect of winning over the small ninja villages be better? Garashi raised his fingers. First, if you encounter too many ninja villages at once, it's easy to be noticed. Moreover, after they hear about this competition, maybe they will feel despised and take the initiative to ask to join? Second, who said I plan to win against them? Asuma was startled. You don't plan to win? Shushi nodded slightly. Showcasing your strength should be reserved for the final competition. As for this competition, I just don't want them to hinder my plan. Chapter 99. 2 days later, in the exam waiting area. Is he Shimizu Garashi? He's so handsome, he looks like a prince from a fairy tale. Love-struck fool. He's just mediocre. But Yunan's too Yuki, they're super cute. Hey, are you here to take the Chunin exam or to participate in a beauty contest? Yes, if you want to pay attention, you should pay attention to their strength. They're all contestants from the 3 great villages. Speaking of which, that Sand Crypsis Marky seems to be one of the 3 who made the agreement. Why didn't anyone mention him? Who knows, maybe he's too ugly. Under the deliberate spread of some intentional people, a small competition has become a power game between the 3 great villages. In Woodleaf's area, Asuma looked at Garashi with resentment. They obviously made an agreement with me, how did it become you? At least someone mentioned Sand Crypsis Marky, but he was simply forgotten. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Maybe, your sense of existence is too low? Asuma stood there stupidly, trembling with anger. Can this world be any better? At this time, a ninja from Rock Crypsis came over. Shimizu Garashi, I will reach the finish line faster than you. Garashi blinked. Excuse me, you are? Damn, I'm the Fist of Monolith of Rock Crypsis, Purple Earth. Purple Earth glared at Garashi. In his view, how could Garashi not know him, the strongest genin of Rock Crypsis? He deliberately pretended not to know him. It must be to humiliate him. Fist of Monolith? Asma, who was ignored again, whispered, "A genin has a nickname." Too shameful. Humph. Just you wait. Feeling humiliated again, Purple Earth left angrily after saying those words. Seeing this, everyone's eyes couldn't help but look at Asma. Asma didn't notice. "Why are you looking at me?" Ibiki patted him on the shoulder. "It's a pity that you didn't come to our intelligence department." On the other side, Kirin's area. "If you don't kill," another girl in the team asked, "should we also announce it? We can't let others forget Kirin, right?" Empress Shomi shook her head. "It's not necessary. The final result. Zabuza looked at her with some surprise. "It seems that the teammates that the higher-ups arranged for me are not all trash." Zihi said frantically, "Who are you calling trash?" "If you don't kill," sneered and closed his eyes. The ninjas of the small countries were scattered and stood separately. Among them, 3 hidden rain genin were looking around curiously. "You really sneaked in. Is this Sensei's hometown? There should be a lot of people like us who hide their identity. After all, there is too much hatred between countries. If we don't hide our identity, we might be killed one day." Woodleaf should also know this, so he didn't deliberately pursue it. In short, be careful. By the way, can you still move blindfolded? Don't worry, I'm a perception ninja, and don't you guys be my eyes? Ding ling ling. Garashi, let's go. What are you still looking at? Shushi retracted his somewhat peculiar gaze and followed after him. The first exam was a theory exam. Although it was some very basic knowledge, there were still many people who couldn't answer it. So, in less than 10 minutes after the exam started, the classroom was full of people dancing. Garashi didn't care. After answering, he began to close his eyes and rest. Only when some people changed the exam paper, he would punish them. Therefore, in the examination room, there were a few more candidates who were trapped in genjutsu and were dancing in the square. 2 hours later, the exam was over, and the results were given on the spot. Less than half of the candidates were screened out, and the rest all entered the second exam. Seeing this situation, many of the candidates were disdainful. That's it? The Chunin exam organized by Woodleaf is too simple. That's right, this kind of difficult question can't make the gap at all. In the midst of these arrogant clamors, a somewhat feminine-looking man stood out. "I'm the examiner of the second exam, Orochimaru." As soon as the voice fell, the clamoring voices disappeared instantly. As a sannin, Orochimaru's reputation in the ninja world is naturally very famous. The content of this exam is very simple. You just need to pass through the forest of death within 3 days. Hearing this, the candidates present couldn't believe it. Isn't this exam too simple? But before they could be happy, Orochimaru smiled gently. However, many of the candidates seemed to be complaining that the exam was too simple, so I will slightly increase the difficulty of this exam. Many of you may know that I have a summon beast called All Snakes. Hearing All Snakes, many people's forehead oozed fine sweat, and then they glared at the group of people before. It was this group of idiots who thought the exam was simple. I will put it in the forest of death, and your task is to enter the tower in the center of the forest of death alive while being chased by it. Many candidates who knew the inside story directly collapsed. What kind of joke is this? This is simply murder. Being targeted by such a monster, it's absolutely impossible to survive. The group of people who had been clamoring earlier were now trembling in fear. Why did the surrounding examinees suddenly look at them differently? One of them was still somewhat unconvinced. Isn't it just a summon beast? What's there to be afraid of? Orochimaru gave him a thumbs up, and then casually summoned All Snakes. Orochimaru, you rascal. All Snakes was scolding unhappily, but when they took a closer look, they instantly drooled. Hiss, hiss. Are these little cuties my sacrifices? Seeing the mountain-like shadow and waterfall-like saliva, those candidates who didn't know how terrifying All Snakes were immediately directed their fierce gazes at those who were clamoring. Orochimaru smiled gently. Don't be anxious, they don't belong to you yet. Only when you catch them in the forest can you start eating. All snakes laughed loudly, hunting before meals. I like this game. After saying that, it stared at the crowd with its terrifying vertical pupils. Let me see whose meat is the most delicious, N? This aura. NN. This aura. All snakes' pupils violently contracted twice, and then they glanced at Orochimaru with dissatisfaction. There's actually a fellow among these sacrifices that this snake finds troublesome. Forget it, when the time comes, I'll just pretend that I didn't see them. Thinking of this, all snakes laughed sinisterly, and slithered their huge bodies into the forest. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. All snakes has the sharpest intuition. Did it detect a dangerous aura? Chapter 100. After watching all snakes enter the forest, Orochimaru clapped his hands and said, "Those who agree to take the exam, come and sign the death certificate. Those who are afraid, it's not too late to withdraw from the exam." Although there were a lot of people who were in despair before, only a small portion of them chose to withdraw from the exam. This was not difficult to understand because the threat of all snakes was the same to everyone. What they needed to do was to hide and escape. In the eyes of the weak, this was what they were best at. As for the strong, they also had their own confidence. Of course, the final result was that all snakes would be able to eat their fill today. In this silent atmosphere, Yuki confidently swung her ponytail. "Shimizu Garashi, you weren't scared by that big worm, right?" Garashi smiled gently. "It's okay, it's not a big problem." "Then you better hurry up, I don't want to wait." "Hee, I'll try my best." "How is that possible? This confidence must be fake." Purple Earth stared, trying to see if Garashi and Yuki were weak. Facing such a terrifying monster, he had no confidence at all. How could they be so calm? But his eyes almost popped out, and he didn't see anything strange. Instead, he found that their teammates were also very relaxed. As for Sand Crypsis, Marky and Kirin, if you don't kill, although they weren't as calm as the previous two, they weren't nervous either. This discovery made him feel even more hopeless. Could it be that they are all so strong? Am I the only trash among the strongest genin in each village? Soon, everyone entered the forest of death one after another. By the side of a crystal-clear river. There are 44 entrances to the forest of death. This is troublesome. Do we have to find them one by one? Asma sat on the ground with some distress. Since Garashi has already thought of this, he must have already prepared a way to find them. Kurenai said confidently. Garashi sat cross-legged on the ground and chuckled softly. "I was just about to test a technique. I'll have to trouble you to protect me for the time being." Asma patted his chest. "Leave it to me." Red also nodded vigorously. "I will never let the enemy disturb you." In fact, they were overly nervous. As a powerful team that was well known among the rookies, ordinary teams did not even dare to approach them. Not to mention, the topic of this exam was survival, not killing. 5 minutes later, an immortal face with eye lines appeared on Garashi's face. Fresh and natural, ethereal and elegant, as if it had a different kind of charm. This Garashi looks even better. Red Pretty Face blushed as she looked at Garashi in Sage Mode. Didn't Sir Jiraiya say that Sage Mode would severely reduce his looks? Asma's eyes were in a daze. He originally wanted to use this opportunity to defeat Garashi and make a huge breakthrough from nothing. Garashi opened his eyes and stood up. Maybe Sir Jiraiya has some misunderstanding about his looks. Asma was enlightened. That's right, the prerequisite to reducing one's looks was to have good looks. Red Pretty Face blushed as she urged, Garashi, how do you plan on using Sage Mode to find someone? Everything in this world has spirituality. By listening to their voices, they will be able to point me in the right direction. Garashi bent down and dipped his right hand into the river. Asma's eyes widened. Listening to the voices of all things? That sounds amazing. Red nodded. If this is used in war, wouldn't we know the enemy's movements clearly? If the range is too large, it will exceed the limits of my ability. However, Garashi smiled as he stood up and looked ahead. If you don't kill is not a problem. The sun shone through the lush foliage and shone on the pale faces of the Takajin genin. Help, who can save us? Isn't the topic of this exam about escaping? Why are we killing each other? In front of them, if you don't kill was silently wiping his blade. He didn't want to enjoy the fear of his enemies before they died, but he wanted to see if he could lure out the ninjas from the same village. If you don't kill, there's no need to kill, right? Empress Shomiai frowned. She didn't resist killing, but she hated meaningless killing. We are now being hunted by that big snake. Passing the exam as soon as possible and entering the central tower is the right choice. If you don't kill's eyes were wanton. Don't you think it's exciting to hunt others while you are being hunted? Seeing that their teammates couldn't stop him, the three Takajin genin finally despaired. They cursed, "You lunatic, pervert, demon." If you don't kill looked at them quietly. Although he was cruel and easily angered, he wouldn't get angry with a few dead people. It seems that no Takajin will come to save you. Then, become my practice of killing, ding. If you don't kill's short blade was hit by a shuriken. The blade trembled, and even he was pushed back 2 steps by the force of the impact. This power. If you don't kill looked in the direction where the shuriken came from with fanatical eyes. In the shadows of the forest, a boy with eyeshadow walked out. It's you. Although he didn't know why the boy changed his appearance, if you don't kill didn't care. He was so excited that his body trembled slightly. I only wanted to lure a few Takajin, but I didn't expect to catch a big fish. Big fish? Do you think I'm your prey? Garashi laughed. It's Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi. Takajin, who was sitting on the ground, was ecstatic. This was real strength. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight stood up vigilantly. Although they didn't like if you don't kill, they still had to stand together in the face of a strong enemy. Moreover, if you don't kill was forced to take 2 steps back with just a shuriken. This kind of strength is really terrifying. They knew if you don't kill's strength, and because of this, they understood how terrifying he was. Even if there was only one person, that kind of aura suppressed them to the point that they almost couldn't breathe. Don't attack, he's my prey. If you don't kill warned, then his eyes were fixed on Garashi. My silent killing technique was honed in the midst of slaughter. Killing an opponent like you would give me a greater boost than killing 10,000 of them. If you don't kill raised his left hand high, and the surrounding fog suddenly filled up, leaving only his voice echoing in the fog. So, I won't test you. Next, let me use my silent killing technique to send you on your way. A ghostly airflow flashed through the thick fog. It was the ultimate killing technique that combined his killing intent and chakra. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, if you don't kill quietly approached. In the thick fog, Garashi sighed softly. In sage mode, his perception was magnified more than 10 times. If you don't kill's silent movements were like 100-watt light bulbs swaying in front of his eyes. What an eyesore. Then, under if you don't kill's shocked gaze, Garashi rushed forward and sent him spiraling away. Splat. The fog dispersed, and everyone saw if you don't kill gracefully slide down from a big tree. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight, Sigma, degree. This is what you meant by don't attack. Chapter 101. At the same time, Empress Shomiai and Shursui were shocked. Even with Zabuza's strength, he was still killed by the enemy when he used his ultimate move. This is too exaggerated. Is this the strength of the strongest genius of Woodleaf? He's much stronger than our Kirin. While the two were shocked, they saw Garashi's gaze moving to them, and they suddenly became nervous. What do you want to do? To their surprise, Garashi not only didn't become aggressive, but also said apologetically, "Don't be nervous, it's my fault." After all, the Chunin exam doesn't prohibit killing, but everyone was invited by our Woodleaf to participate in the exam, and this isn't a killing mode. It's a pity to die like this, so I privately ask you to let them go. Are you asking us for help? Empress Shomiai and Shursui couldn't believe it. In their cognition, the strong always dominate everything. Even if the other party broke the rules, the strong can be forgiven no matter what they do. This is the law of survival of Kirin. However, this doesn't mean that they like such cold rules. As long as they are human, they will always yearn for the sun. Garashi smiled gently. Is that okay? Facing this warm and gentle smile, the two little girls inexplicably had a good impression in their hearts. Really, really gentle. Compared with the retarded teammate if you don't kill, the enemy in front of them is 10,000 times better than him. Wait, if you don't kill, without them knowing, if you don't kill who slid down from the tree has turned into a clone form, and his body quietly went to the woods behind Garashi. I didn't expect these two women to be useful, they actually attracted that guy's attention. Seeing if you don't kill with a dark red handprint on his face jump out and stab behind Garashi, the two girls immediately wanted to exclaim out loud. But suddenly they reacted, reminding the enemy doesn't seem to be a good idea. Just as they were hesitating, Garashi didn't look back and slapped if you don't kill again like a fly. Sage mode combined with Hashiman Tonku, even if it's only the first 3 gates, it's still powerful. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight's mouth twitched. Hee, they actually believe that if you don't kill could pose a threat to the opponent? No longer hesitating, the two said in unison, let's go. After that, the two turned around and planned to leave. But after thinking about it, they walked to if you don't kill side, each of them grabbed one of the trousers and dragged the unconscious if you don't kill away. Garashi sighed helplessly. If you don't kill didn't want to sneak up on him and fought him face to face, he could at least cause some trouble for him. Well, at least I should slap him a few more times. At this time, Takajin and the other two who seemed to have fallen into a dream finally woke up. Lord Garashi, thank you so much. We will remember your great kindness in our hearts. Garashi shook his head slightly. I'm only doing this as the host. I don't want you to lose your lives because of this reason. The three's eyes were incomparably firm. No matter what, you saved us. Don't think too much, let's start the exam again. After Garashi finished speaking, he gave the three a simple treatment. Then, he received increasingly grateful gazes from the three. After Takajin and the other two left, Asma and the other two arrived late. Huff huff Garashi, is this the place? Where are they? It's already taken care of. That's too fast. Asma complained, then asked, but if you don't kill still attack the other candidates? Kurenai glanced at him, didn't he say that before the exam? Asma snorted, isn't that because the situation has changed? Who knew that Orochimaru would come out with a hunting mode? Other than Garashi, I don't believe that anyone can deal with all snakes. Don't praise me too much, what I lack the most now is the means to deal with such large creatures. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Garashi, I know you don't want us to relax our vigilance. Asma put his hands on Garashi's shoulders and squinted his eyes, looking very funny, but do you think I will believe your words? Garashi sighed helplessly, let's go back to if you don't kill, his strength is not weak. If it's just running away, there should be a certain degree of certainty that he can escape from all snakes. Kurenai added, there are so many prey in the forest, all snakes don't have to keep chasing one person. When they find that the prey is not easy to catch, they will naturally change their target. That's right, that guy doesn't seem like someone who will take care of his teammates. Asma muttered and asked, by the way, Garashi, are we going to keep following them to save people? Garashi smiled and shook his head, of course not, letting people go twice will arouse suspicion. Asma wondered, but if we don't follow behind, if you don't kill kills people, how are we going to save people? Garashi's lips curled up slightly, don't worry, when I knocked him out, I gave him a little hint. Asma sighed, Garashi, can you not think so thoroughly every time, at least leave some room for me to play. Garashi rubbed his chin, if you don't kill, the seeds here have been planted, and those who can hinder him have been sent to the finish line in advance. Next, we have to save Woodleaf's companions who may be swallowed by all snakes. Asma, I'll leave it to you. Asma was shocked, save people? It seems too important. Garashi, wait, there is too much room for you to play. Why don't you reconsider? On the other side of the river. Violet Knight grabbed If You Don't Kill's trousers and threw them down, puffing out her chest and raising her head. We saved him this time. Let's see if he dares to say that we're holding him back. Empress Shomi, I brushed her hair. You better not provoke him. Be careful that he doesn't kill you to silence you. Violet Knight's body trembled. No way. If we didn't drag him away just now, he would have been killed by those Takajin. Empress Shomi rolled her eyes. It's not like you don't know what kind of place Kirin is. Hearing this, Zai hurriedly pulled Zabuza's thigh that she had pulled apart when she was venting. Seeing If You Don't Kill's posture change from 2 to 10, Violet Knight carefully breathed a sigh of relief. Sigh, I'm so envious of Shimizu Garashi's teammate. With such a strong, gentle, and handsome person as the captain, it must be very comfortable. After saying this, she looked at If You Don't Kill with disdain. In the past, at least he had a strong advantage, but now, compared to Shimizu Garashi, he was completely defeated. Empress Shomi nodded in agreement. I really want to use If You Don't Kill to recycle would leave secondhand genin. At this time, If You Don't Kill's body twitched and woke up. Chapter 102. Noticing the movement, the two of them quickly sat up straight. Violet Knight, who was feeling guilty, even squeezed out a sweet smile. If you don't kill, you're awake. However, If You Don't Kill completely ignored her existence. At first, he was silent, then he laughed wildly. Hee hee, haha. Violet Knight moved closer to Empress Shomi and whispered, he's not broken, is he? This kind of enemy is worthy of hunting. Looking at the dark red handprints on If You Don't Kill's face, Violet Knight couldn't help but ridicule. Are you sure he's the prey? If You Don't Kill looked at her calmly. A hunter hunting doesn't mean he's stronger than the prey, but because he has the heart of a hunter. As for that Shimizu Garashi, he was stupid enough to let us go. With such a weak mind, no matter how strong he is, he's just a herbivore. After that, he added, there's one more thing, he's very strong, but he's definitely not as terrible as you think. Hearing his words, Violet Knight wanted to ask, who was the one who was knocked unconscious by 2 slaps? If You Don't Kill seemed to see Violet Knight's disapproval, and coldly said, let me ask you, did his eye tattoo disappear in the end? It seems to be the case. Violet Knight seriously recalled, and then said confidently, but, what's wrong with that? Idiot. If You Don't Kill snorted, I saw his eye tattoo fading before I was knocked unconscious, but you didn't notice it when you stood in front of him? Empress Shomi softly said, you mean, his strength comes from that eye tattoo? If You Don't Kill nodded, although that eye tattoo can be said to be a part of his strength, this kind of ninjutsu that enhances strength is absolutely impossible to have no restrictions. Either he'll become weak after using it, or he needs to prepare in advance. However, from the fact that he dared to let you go, it's most likely the latter. Violet Knight was surprised. If You Don't Kill, this guy actually has a brain. Empress Shomi frowned. Are you still planning to challenge him? If You Don't Kill corrected him, it's hunting. Empress Shomi shook her head. With the threat of all snakes, we won't go crazy with you. Violet Knight nodded vigorously. She didn't want to bite the hand that fed her. If you don't kill, he said indifferently, it's better if you leave as soon as possible. Empress Shomi was not angry. She only reminded him, he still has a bet with Yunnan Sand Crypsis. By the time you catch up with him, he will probably be in the central tower. Violet Knight hid behind Empress Shomi and said, that's right. If you really want to challenge him, you can wait until the official match. Woodleaf will definitely not let a genius like him be killed by me, so my only chance is in the Forest of Death. Although I also think that Woodleaf's side will most likely break the rules if this really happens, but... Empress Shomi couldn't help but complain, it's too unrealistic for you to say that you want to kill him. I won't deny that losing to him in the official match is also one of the reasons. If you don't kill didn't hide his thoughts. No matter how good a hunter is, he still needs a suitable environment to set up a trap. As for the time, I'll make him stay. Violet Knight looked at him suspiciously. Who do you think you are? You think you can make him give up on the bet? If you don't kill, narrowed his eyes. Doesn't he want to pretend to be a good guy? Heh, I'll let him pretend. Empress Shomiai's pupils shrank. You want to kill him to force him to come out? Kill him? With such an exquisite feast, who would be interested in those crude snacks? If you don't kill, licked his lips and said with a crazy look in his eyes, I'll only seriously injure them and then tell them that the only one who can save them in this forest is Shimizu Garashi. The two girls weren't surprised. After all, many people knew that he was the disciple of Princess Katsuyu. If you don't kill was full of confidence. As long as he still wants to pretend to be a good guy, he will definitely stay. Moreover, it will also consume his chakra. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight looked at each other. Sure enough, compared to Shimizu Garashi, this guy was simply an evil villain. In a forest. Two tangy ninjas walked timidly, looking left and right. The tangy ninja next to them sneered. No way. Is there really someone who is afraid of a snake? Idiot, aren't you afraid? This kind of big snake is the best. As long as I dig a hole in its path and wait for it to swim over, I can hide in the hole and slide. Huh? Why are you looking at me? You, behind you, the two tangy ninjas said in fear, then turned around and ran. I'll leave it to you, hurry up and slide. The sliding kick ninja turned his head around stiffly, and he happened to meet 10,000 snakes' kind eyes. Little ninja, give it a try. Wow. Mom, help. Seeing the sliding kick ninja turn around and run, the snake dowager shook her head in boredom and swallowed him in one gulp. Burp, comfortable. Just as they were about to catch up with the two tangy ninjas who ran away, they suddenly heard a fierce quarrel. Comparing the number of people they heard, all snakes silently lowered their body and slid over. On the other side of the forest, Woodleaf's group and Rock Crypsis's group of 6 were confronting each other. Good luck, they met Woodleaf's people so soon. It can also be said that their luck is too bad. Seeing the provocative look of the other side, Bordered Soil took out his kunai and pointed it at the Rock Crypsis. This is a survival battle, it's not good for anyone to attract all snakes. Several Rock Crypsis laughed. How can all snakes be so easy to meet? Why don't you call its name and see if it will come to save you? Because Kakashi has been promoted to Chunin, Metkei, who filled the gap in the team, said unhappily. Do you want to fight? 6 against 3, we have the absolute advantage. Humph. If you want to blame someone, blame your Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi who used despicable means to kill our Rock Crypsis's ninja. Bordered Soil sneered loudly. Don't tell me it's the 2 Rock Crypsis Jonins who were killed by our Woodleaf's genin? Metkei on the side was surprised. Amazing, did Garashi-san kill a Jonin? Bordered Soil waved his hand, for Garashi-san, it's a piece of cake. Seeing the two talking as if there was no one else around, the Rock Crypsis felt their lungs were about to explode. Bastard. Watch me kill you. Kill them and avenge Yangdor-sama. Just right, I'll let you see the power of the Uchiha. Bordered Soil quickly made hand seals, but before he finished, he saw a green whirlwind rush out beside him. Aha! Watch my Woodleaf's great whirlwind. Almost in an instant, the 6 Rock Crypsis Jonins were all knocked down. Seeing this, Bordered Soil silently shed tears. Bastard. It's the same as Kakashi, can't you leave too for me? On the other side, the 6 Rock Crypsis Jonins were also crying. It shouldn't be. The script shouldn't be like this. Obviously, it's just an ordinary Jonin that wasn't mentioned in the intelligence, how can it be so powerful? Didn't Magic Leech Sama say that except for Shimizu Garashi's team, all the other teams can fight? Even an ordinary Woodleaf Jonin is so powerful, could it be that the most powerful Woodleaf Jonin can really kill our Rock Crypsis Jonin? Chapter 103. The main content is as follows. 1. It will be published at noon tomorrow, and will not be updated at midnight. It may be delayed by 10 minutes. It takes time to open VIP and eat. 2. Regardless of the results, it will be updated in 5 days and 5 chapters. Currently, I only have enough chapters for 3 days and 5 chapters. The remaining 2 days and 5 chapters may be pushed to the beginning of next month. I can't stay up all night. I'm about to die. I'll talk about this later. 3. It's best not to tip this book, because I can't add more chapters. XXXXXX. Then, allow me to explain a bit. Actually, before I started this book, I already had nearly 30 chapters in stock. When I started this book, I even thought that if I wrote 3 chapters a day and published 2 chapters, I might be able to release 80 chapters. However, because I haven't written for half a year, the stock was collected in April. I'm rusty. I can't even write 1,000 words in a night, causing me to use up my stock almost every day for the first 10 days or so. It wasn't easy to get back into the groove, but there were 2 inspections at the construction site. I worked overtime every day to prepare the information, and by the end of October, my stock was completely used up. I also knew that it would definitely be published this month, so I had to use the long-lost method of staying up all night. I swear on my dignity as a man, if I didn't write until 3:00 in the morning from October 25th until today, let me be shorter by 1 centimeter. Since I swore this kind of oath, it means that I really didn't slack off. I'm really too busy with work, after all. It's not like 2 years ago when I just graduated. At that time, I didn't have much to do, and now I'm in charge of 2 departments. The leader said that he wanted to train me, but it's also to prepare for future promotions. I'm very grateful, but it's really tiring. After staying up all night for half a month, I feel like I'm about to die, so let me take a break for the next 2 chapters. It'll probably be published at the beginning of next month. It was still okay when I was studying, but now that I'm a bit older, I'm almost 27. The reason why I'm almost 27 after 2 years of graduation is because I'm in graduate school. Staying up all night is really a bit unbearable. Of course, I also know that explanations are just explanations, so I also don't dare to ask for anything. No matter what the results are, these 5 chapters will definitely appear. By the way, I'll still keep 2 chapters in stock. After all, there are too many things to do right now. If I don't keep 2 chapters in stock, I won't feel at ease. Then, let's talk about the rest of the story. Yep, I was personally quite confident. Right now, the story hadn't even started yet, and the real action was still brewing. After all, the main character's power level was too weak, and he wouldn't be able to do anything flashy. Some readers might say that the main character is weak. Cough cough, those who are familiar with me probably know that I'm the type of person who doesn't know how to write if the main character isn't strong enough. That's because it's too risky to cause trouble when you're weak. Only by standing at the top, at least on the surface, can you bear the risk of backlash. In my opinion, no matter how scheming you are, you still need to have the corresponding strength. Also, I think that I'm the kind of author who starts low and goes high. Like I said in the previous paragraph, it's hard for me to start in the early stages, but the early reviews of this book are at least much better than the previous 2 books. The more I read, the more exciting the plot becomes. Finally, let me reveal a little. The middle period mentioned in my introduction is marked by the Kyubi Rebellion. Before that, the protagonist will only affect part of the plot. From here on out, the plot will go berserk and enter the sea. Bah, the Great Ninja Era. Chapter 104. Seeing them like this, even the kind-hearted Lin couldn't help but say, "If you're so weak, why do you still want to learn how to fight?" Heartbreaking. The rock Crypsis Genin wanted to retort, but when they looked at Metke, who had the word ordinary written all over his body, they couldn't help but wail in their hearts. As a Genin, I'm sorry. Bordered Soil rubbed his fists and walked out. Hee hee, you're looking down on us, aren't you? A few rock Crypsis Genin panicked. What are you trying to do? I'm warning you, if you attract all snakes, it won't be good for anyone. Bordered Soil imitated their previous arrogant behavior and shouted, all snakes aren't that easy to meet. Why don't you call out their names and see if they'll come to save you? All snakes, hee hee, I'm here. Hearing the voice behind them, and the surroundings being shrouded in shadows, the rock Crypsis Genin turned around in fear, just in time to see a big stinking mouth biting towards them. Idiot magic leech, F***ck. This last thought flashed through their minds, and they were swallowed by all snakes. My stomach is quite big, you guys can hide in it and sleep for a while. All snakes grinned maliciously, then their cold eyes swept over Bordered Soil and the others. Next, it's your turn. Being stared at by all snakes' terrifying eyes, Bordered Soil's hands and feet were a little weak, but he still stood in front of Lin and tried to play the emotional card. 1. All snakes boss, hello, actually we're from the same village as Orochimaru. Oh, all snakes suddenly understood, then snorted. Then I'll allow you to choose one way to be eaten by me. Seeing the human-like playful look in all snakes' eyes, Bordered Soil cried out in pain, I'm sorry, I'm the one who got you into this. Lin pressed on his shoulder and said softly, Bordered Soil, it's not your fault, even if you didn't say those words, it would still come out. But. Bordered Soil could feel that Lin's palm was trembling slightly. Thinking of how Lin was trembling in fear but still comforting him gently, Bordered Soil wiped his tears, sniffled, and shouted, hey, if you want to eat me, let the two of them leave. The snake dowager looked at him as if he was an idiot. If I could eat 3, why would I only eat? At this moment, a strong chakra burst out. Open, wood leaf whirlwind. Amazing, Metke might really be able to. Bordered Soil's eyes widened, he didn't expect Metke to have such a powerful move. But before he could be happy, he saw Guy kick all snakes, and then he was sent flying by the scales. This brat actually kicked me a little. All snakes were shocked, but they still said, Brat, are you tickling me? Damn it, it still doesn't work. Then I can't give up. Bordered Soil wiped his tears and began to form a seal. Fire release, grand fireball technique. With Guy as an example, all snakes didn't dare to be too careless. Then, they saw a few small flames floating out of Bordered Soil's mouth. All snakes were stunned, and laughed until tears flowed out. Ha ha ha. Is this the grand fireball technique? Brat, you're not trying to make me laugh to death, are you? On the side, Guy struggled to stand up and said in shock, Bordered Soil, will this method work? Bordered Soil's face turned red, and for a moment, he couldn't tell if Metke was really shocked or laughing at him. Unfortunately, I don't know how to tell jokes. Metke sighed, and then his eyes sharpened, however, I also have my own ninja path. Bordered Soil's little face twisted, who said that my ninja path is a joke? Next, it's time to practice my ninja path. 5th gate, stop gate. At this moment, a familiar voice came from afar. Don't worry, it's not time yet. The 3 of them were startled, and immediately cheered in ecstasy. Great, it's Garashi-senpai. Ahaha, we don't have to die. Although all snakes were very strong, they benefited from the perfect image created by Garashi, so in their eyes, there was nothing that their senpai couldn't do. Could it be those 2 brats? Seeing their relaxed and cheerful appearance, all snakes became slightly vigilant. Soon, Garashi and the other 2 appeared in all snakes' line of sight. Oh, so it's not them. Although Garashi's speed wasn't something a genin could display, all snakes didn't care at all, and their pupils returned to their playful and tyrannical look. Are you okay? After landing, Garashi first asked with concern. We're fine. Lin shook her head, and then reminded, Senpai, be careful of this big snake. Garashi nodded with a smile, then turned to look at all snakes. There are so many prey in the forest, there's no need to keep an eye on them, right? How about we end it here? Just treat it as giving me face. Who do you think you are? All snakes' nostrils spewed out 2 streams of white smoke, and then their pupils suddenly contracted. You brat, there's a smell on your body that I hate very much. Hiss, so you're the contractor of that group of slugs. Brat, you don't think that the relationship between the 3 holy lands is very good, do you? All snakes' bodies suddenly leaned over, and their terrifying snake heads were placed in front of Garashi. I'm now itching to eat you. Shushi didn't panic. He looked at the cold vertical pupils in front of him and chuckled. I'm not a snake lover like Orochimaru-sama. If a pet doesn't obey me, it will be punished. All snakes didn't have time to get angry before they saw the brat that they hated step on their nostrils with a teleportation technique, then rubbed the blue ball and pressed it toward their eyes. How can he be so fast? All snakes panicked and subconsciously closed their eyes. Then, there was an incomparably painful roar. This sound shook the forest, and the birds, beasts, insects, and fish all fled in fright. The various teams that were hiding in the forest also looked in the direction of the sound in bewilderment. On the way to the central tower, Violet Knight stuttered, This can't be the cry of that all snakes, right? That kind of monster isn't an examinee at all. Empress, show me, I said, and suddenly a figure flashed in her mind. No, if it's him, he might really be able to do it. Violet Knight's small mouth was wide open. Are you talking about Shimizu Garashi? Empress, show me, I nodded. Other than him, I can't think of anyone else who has this kind of ability. It can't be that all snakes bit their own tongues, right? Violet Knight sighed, and said with pity, if it's really him, I feel that if you don't kill, you'll die a horrible death. In a forest near the center of the battle. He's too strong, he can actually injure that kind of monster. Standing on a tree and looking into the distance, Marky's heart couldn't help but throb. Noticing Marky's shocked expression, the Sand Crypsis ninja under the tree couldn't help but ask, Brother Marky, what did you see? As expected of a genius on the same level as Sasori. Marky didn't dare to look anymore, and directly jumped down and walked toward the center. Let's go, at least win once now. Chapter 105. In the forest, all snakes' left eyes oozed blood, and they rolled and screamed in pain. Damn brat, I must bite you to pieces. Garashi also sighed in his heart, I really lack the means to deal with these large creatures now. With the power of the original version of Rasengan, it can't even break the eyelids of all snakes, and it can only hurt them with the power of vibration. If it were other hard parts, it probably wouldn't even feel the vibration. However, even without those powerful means, it won't be too difficult to deal with this stupid snake. Garashi's eyes were calm, and he pressed another Rasengan. Get off me, get off me. All snakes were in pain, desperately shaking their heads and rolling, trying to shake Garashi off their heads. However, Garashi's feet seemed to be rooted on their heads, and no matter how they shook, Garashi stood still. For a while, trees were broken, and rocks were shattered. The forest, which used to be calm in the past, was a mess in an instant. Worried about being affected by the chaos, Asma and others hid in the distance early. Bordered Soil shouted excitedly, too powerful, that big snake is no match for Senpai at all. Asma shook his head, it's not that simple. Although all snakes can't use ninjutsu like Jiraiya, Sama and Tsunade-sama's psychic beasts, their defense, attack, and speed are all first class. Even if Shushi's attack was successful 100 times, it wouldn't do much damage to him. However, the Snake Dowager's attack could severely injure Shushi just once. Hearing this, Lin was a little worried. What should we do? Should I take the initiative to give up the exam and ask Orochimaru-sama to save Senpai? Kurenai smiled and comforted, don't listen to Asma's nonsense, he has more confidence in Garashi than you do. Seeing the others looking at him, Asuma chuckled and said, I'm not lying. However, the premise of serious injury is that it works at least once. With this stupid snake's ability, even if it dies of exhaustion, it won't be able to wait for that one time. In the arena, the Snake Dowager had already gone mad with rage. Although the little bug didn't cause much damage to it, it was like a mosquito buzzing around its ear, making the snake feel annoyed. Since you don't want to come down, then die for me. All snakes' eyes flashed with a trace of fierceness, and they directly hit the ground with their heads. Bang! 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 After hitting all snakes more than a dozen times, they stopped a little dizzy. Their two eyes squeezed to the middle. Finally, they couldn't see the annoying snake's figure. But before it could be happy for a few seconds, Shushi used the body flicker technique again. Ah! All Snake's body suddenly slammed into the left side. Boom! The mountain was cut in half, and Garashi was also sent flying. Finally. All Snakes heaved a sigh of relief, then saw Garashi step on the splashing rocks and jump towards them. Too much bullying. In anger, all Snakes couldn't care less. They directly used the only snakeskin technique they knew, and escaped from Garashi's jumping range by shedding their skin. Then, with a catapult, they swallowed Garashi, who couldn't dodge in midair. Ahaha, damn stinky brat. All Snakes vented their anger by laughing loudly, but the next moment, their smiles froze on their faces. They saw Garashi standing on the ground, unscathed, and playing with a kunai in his hand. Shadow clone? All Snakes laughed sinisterly. Brat, how many more times can you clone with your chakra? Garashi shook his head slightly. It's over. All Snakes was startled. You've used up your chakra? I mean, today's battle is over, Mr. Stupid Snake. Garashi threw the kunai behind him. Didn't Lord Orochimaru tell you not to eat things given by strangers? Well, strangers are the same. As soon as his voice fell, Garashi disappeared from All Snake's sight, but the next moment, he appeared at the place where the kunai fell. All Snakes were a little confused. Idiot brat, you're acting like a monkey. Ugh. With a muffled sound, All Snake's eyes widened, and they spat out a thick cloud of smoke. Then, blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and their bodies fell heavily to the ground. Boom. The ground shook slightly, and All Snakes struggled to ask, damn it, what did you do to me? I just put a few explosive charms in your stomach, Garashi said and snapped his fingers. Asma, it's up to you. Asma jumped out of his hiding place, took out a stack of explosive charms, and put it in Garashi's hand, overflowing with the aura of a local tyrant. Take it, don't be polite with me. Seeing the stack of explosive charms, All Snake's heart twitched. If it was in the outside world, they wouldn't be afraid even if there were 10 times more explosive charms, but if it exploded inside their body, they felt that they should consider their last words. Thinking of this, All Snakes gritted their teeth. Is it because of the shadow clone I ate before? Garashi smiled slightly. The shadow clone will disappear, but some things won't. As Orochimaru's summoned beast, and a member of the Ryuchi cave lineage that has a long history in the shinobi world, Manda's knowledge is not small, and she quickly understood the reason. That shadow clone also carries a special kunai? Is it the flying thunder god jutsu of Nidaime Naruto? In short, we should be able to communicate properly now, right? Looking at Garashi's gentle smile, All Snakes inexplicably felt a chill in their hearts. Under normal circumstances, the ninjutsu mastered by this brat can't threaten them at all, and it's impossible for the opponent's chakra to consume their stamina. As long as it drags on, the snake that wins this battle will definitely be them. But now they also found out that the words of the opponent from the beginning, and the attack, all revolved around arousing their anger, making them lose their mind in anger, and finally step into the trap set by the opponent. This feeling, it's like being completely seen through by this brat. Every movement of mine is like a marionette controlled by him. Compared with the 2 troublesome brats I perceived before, this bastard is the real monster. Thinking of this, All Snakes could no longer feel a trace of contempt in their hearts. I know, I will let them go. Garashi crossed his arms. That's the previous condition. Now, I hope you can let go of every wood-leaf ninja you meet in this exam. All Snakes were silent, just quietly staring at each other. Garashi chuckled softly. If you're worried about my threat spreading, you can say that you're worried about Orochimaru-sama. There was another dead silence. All Snakes said in a hoarse voice, okay, I agree. Bordered Soil and the others looked at All Snakes in surprise. When did this grumpy guy become so easy to talk to? I'm really grateful. Garashi smiled and turned around. Get ready to go. Asma rolled his eyes and deliberately followed up, asking loudly, Garashi, what if it digests the kunai with acid and then comes to us for revenge? Garashi smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry, my kunai is specially customized, and it won't be easy to digest it in 3 days. Hearing their conversation, All Snake's eyes flashed. What an annoying brat. Chapter 106. Because of Kiran's constant trouble, and because of the snake's anger, the days of the candidates in the Forest of Death suddenly became difficult. One day later, in front of the central tower. Finally, we're here. It's too difficult. Why is the Chunin exam so difficult? When they saw the central tower, the rock Crypsis ninjas were moved to tears. Bah! Purple Earth spat out the grass seed in his mouth. His eyes were full of anger. Bastard, if you don't kill, don't let me see you again. Although he said that, his voice was inevitably mixed with a trace of fear. That bastard is too strong. If it weren't for his strength and the fact that he gathered his men in advance, he might have been killed this time. But even so, 5 of his 33 rock Crypsis ninjas were seriously injured. 45 people, only 39 were found. 6 were eaten by all snakes, and 5 were seriously injured if you don't kill. Purple Earth's face collapsed. This was something he couldn't imagine before the exam. It's just a selection exam, and almost half of the rock Crypsis ninjas were lost. Purple Earth wiped his face and forced himself to cheer up. Everyone take a rest, then hide, and ambush those wood leaf ninjas according to the original plan. We must let them understand our pain. Hearing what he said, the rock Crypsis ninjas around him shouted with emotion. Yes, it's all Woodleaf's fault. Let them feel the pain, experience the pain, and accept the pain. However, amidst these indignant voices, a question that was not very harmonious suddenly rang out. But, what if we ambush that Shimizu Garashi ninjas? Purple Earth pointed to the tower behind him. With that bet, shouldn't they be in the tower? The ninja shook his head in confusion. Purple Earth boss, I didn't sense Shimizu Garashi's chakra in the tower. Purple Earth's eyes widened, and he hurriedly stepped forward to press on his shoulder. Are you telling the truth? The ninja who spoke nodded. After all, I'm a perception ninja, so I can still perceive things from this distance. That can't be. It only took me a day to gather people from everywhere. Z2 muttered to himself. His eyes became brighter and brighter. Could it be that he isn't as powerful as we thought? At this time, a ninja wearing glasses said timidly, Purple Earth boss, there's something that I haven't dared to tell you. Purple Earth frowned. What is it? The ninja with glasses recalled, it's like this, before we met you, we met all snakes once. Could it be that you led all snakes here? Purple Earth was angry and was about to curse, but after thinking about it, he held back. The 3 of us were scared out of our wits. We hid in the bushes and didn't move. But at that moment, Clearwater Shushi and his teammates appeared across from the Snake Dowager. Purple Earth was overjoyed. Could it be that the 3 of them were eaten? I was wondering why they didn't arrive at this time. Just when the rock Crypsis ninjas were overjoyed, the ninja with glasses said indignantly, it's not like that at all. The big snake closed its eyes and pretended not to see them, and just let the 3 of them pass. As soon as his voice fell, the rock Crypsis ninjas suddenly exploded. Shady, it's definitely shady. I should have known, that big snake is Woodleaf's psychic beast, it definitely wouldn't attack Woodleaf's ninjas. Purple Earth suddenly realized. No wonder he was so calm in the examination room, it turns out that he cheated. Thinking of this, a burst of anger from being fooled surged in his heart. Damn it, a trash ninja who only knows how to cheat, he actually made me think that he was the trash. Purple Earth gritted his teeth and cursed. When he thought of his cowardice at that time, he wanted to go back in time and beat himself up. Purple Earth boss, should we go out now and expose Woodleaf's shady dealings? A rock Crypsis ninja asked. What's the use of that? It won't hurt at all. Purple Earth snorted discontentedly. If we're going to do it, we'll do it thoroughly. Purple Earth boss, what do you mean? Woodleaf spent so much effort to create momentum for their team, it must be to push out Asma, that Shimizu Garashi might just be a distraction for him. The rock Crypsis ninjas suddenly realized. So that's the case, no wonder something as ridiculous as a lower ninja killing a jounin can happen. Maybe there were more than 10 Woodleaf jounins around at that time, secretly lying in ambush. Sandame Naruto is indeed despicable and sinister, He actually used our rock Crypsis Jounin to pave the way for his son. He even deliberately used the so-called strongest genius to share the burden of his son. Yeah, maybe he even let that Shimizu Garashi deliberately lose to his son in the battle. Fortunately, we have Purple Earth Boss's wisdom is unparalleled. He saw through their scheme at a glance. Purple Earth nodded contentedly. It doesn't matter how many Woodleaf Jounins we kill, the key to hurting Woodleaf is to kill that Shimizu. No, Asma's team. A rock Crypsis ninja was still a little hesitant. But didn't Magic Leech Sama say? Purple Earth waved his hand carelessly. Magic Leech Sama was also deceived by Woodleaf. Listen to me, the other Woodleaf ninjas don't ambush, so as not to expose our whereabouts, wait for Asma's team to appear, then we'll kill them. At the same time, in the central tower, Yuki was puffing her cheeks. This is too much, they actually ignored our agreement. In order to win this bet, they passed through the forest of death as fast as they could. 91 minutes and 37 seconds, directly breaking Woodleaf's previous record of 4 hours. Then, she just sat there and waited. She waited, and waited, a day passed, even that Sand Crypsis guy arrived, but the opponent she imagined still didn't appear. Samui rolled her eyes. Isn't it just a guy who doesn't live up to his name? What's there to care about? Sabina, who was also her teammate, smiled with a little bit of infatuation. You don't understand, even if he's a vase, he's still a perfect vase. Yuki looked at them with a strange expression. You don't really think that he's weak, right? I didn't say that he's weak, it's just that his strength doesn't match his fame. Samui curled her lips. This kind of man isn't cool at all. Yuki shook her head slightly with a dignified expression. You're wrong, even Big Cat said that the man has an aura that it's afraid of. What? The two were shocked, then hurriedly asked, is he also a Jinchuriki? Yuki bit her finger and whispered, I don't think so, he does have the aura of a tailed beast, but it's very faint. The fear that Big Cat mentioned is actually referring to his soul. Samui and Sabina's eyes were full of horror. He wasn't a Jinchuriki, but he could make a tailed beast fear him. This was even more terrifying. Moreover, according to legend, wasn't Nibby a mythical beast that fed on souls? How strong would a soul that even Nibby was afraid of be? Yuki waved her small fist. Anyway, I'll let him know the consequences of underestimating the agreement. Chapter 107. At the same time, beside a small river, a strange thick fog shrouded the area, and from time to time, screams of horror and despair could be heard. Don't come over, don't come over. Devil, this guy is a devil. If you don't kill stood quietly on the river, looking at the ugly performance of the three shinobis in the thick fog, his eyes were indifferent, incompetent wastes like you can only be used as bait. Scream, scream more miserably. Zabuza's toes gently tapped on the surface of the river, like a ghost floating forward. But just as he was about to wave his sword, a wave of water suddenly shot in from outside the fog. Coming? If you don't kill's eyes moved slightly, and he dodged to the side. The next moment, 3 shinobis dressed as Hidden Rain came in. Standing in the middle of the 3, the shinobi said, it's just an escape test, there's no need to kill people, right? If you don't kill squinted his eyes and looked at them, then he smiled, interesting, in addition to that guy, there is someone else who wants to meddle in other people's business. That guy? The shinobis was a little surprised, you mean, in addition to us, there is someone else who wants to save the ninjas of other villages? If you don't kill put away his sword, you should have heard of his name, Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi. The shinobis nodded, then he wondered, but didn't he have a bet? With his fame, this forest of death shouldn't be able to trap him, right? If you don't kill smiled, of course, this forest of death won't be able to trap him, it's the meaningless goodwill that is trapping him. At this time, one of the shinobis stood up while holding his chest. I understand, you deliberately injured us so that we can ask him for help, no wonder the shinobis from Tang village warned us to be careful of you. If you don't kill smiled contemptuously, that guy is indeed very strong. I almost have no power to fight back in front of him, but so what if he is strong? I only used some trash to hold him back, and even made him fall into my trap. Several shinobis couldn't help but widen their eyes. In their opinion, Zabuza was already ridiculously strong, but now Zabuza was saying that he couldn't even fight back in front of Shimizu Shushi. It was hard to imagine how strong that wood leaf genius was. The Hidden Rain trio were also surprised, but they were surprised that in this cruel and indifferent world, there were ninjas who held the same belief of peace as them. Just as the three of them were slightly distracted, If You Don't Kill suddenly moved. He used water body flicker and rushed to the weakest point of the enemy's formation. He could feel that the strength of these three people was not weak. In a situation of 1 against 3, he naturally had to use some tricks. Even if the other party was just a blind person. However, the blind Yu-In reacted at an extremely fast speed. Earth Release, Earth Dragon Bullet. A huge earth dragon formed in an instant and sprayed more than a dozen giant mud bullets at If You Don't Kill. What's with this chakra? The amount is simply amazing. Also, how can this blind man's perception be so sharp? If You Don't Kill's pupils shrank sharply. He didn't have time to make any hand seals. He could only rely on his footwork to move flexibly between the mud bullets. But before he could get close to the other party, he saw the blind man hit him with another vacuum jutsu. If You Don't Kill couldn't move forward, he had to stop and hurriedly jump behind. Another genius who can make me feel pressure. If You Don't Kill's eyes flashed with excitement. This Chunin exam was really the right choice. First, leave some marks for the other two, so as not to hinder my actions. Thinking of this, Zabuza quickly formed a hand seal, and a water dragon technique rushed towards the purple-haired female ninja among the three people. Whoosh! The purple-haired woman dodged the attack by turning into pieces of paper. Then, the falling pieces of paper were like sharp blades, shooting toward him at an extremely fast speed. It wasn't over yet. The leader ninja, who was ignored by him before, also seized the opportunity to use his water cannon. If You Don't Kill didn't have time to dodge, he was directly blown away by the water cannon. Like a stone skipping on water, it bounced up and down on the river a few times before falling onto the surface of the river with a pa sound. No, it's not just the blind man, these three people are very strong. Are you kidding me? When did Hidden Rain have such powerful genin? If You Don't Kill got up awkwardly, his eyes were full of disbelief. Although these three people looked a few years older than him, he was a genius of Kirin, and these three guys were just from Hidden Rain. What's more, he suspected that these three people were hiding some of their strength. This Chunin exam is getting more and more interesting. Just you wait, I will be back. After saying those words, If You Don't Kill slowly sank into the water. Seeing this, the leader helplessly sighed. It's really troublesome. Exposing our strength may attract attention, but if we don't expose our strength, we can't drive him away. The blind ninja was silent for a moment. Do you want to catch up and kill him? The woman blinked and didn't raise any objection. If the three of them use their full strength, it's easy to kill the Kirin ninja. The leader shook his head. Forget it, the strength we showed wasn't too much. On the contrary, if we kill him, it's more likely to attract attention. At this time, the three ninjas came over. Their eyes were full of twinkling stars. You are so powerful. If you don't kill, you defeated the Peach Land, which is considered very powerful among the 5 great ninja villages. Hidden Rain is worthy of being a shinobi demigod, much more powerful than us. The leader smiled. We only have the advantage of age. By the way, what are you going to do now? The 3 ninjas looked at each other and said with some lack of confidence, we are injured now, and we don't think about whether we can pass the exam or not. However, if we don't get treatment, our injuries may worsen. Although it's embarrassing, we can only go and disturb the genius wood leaf. The leader pondered for a while. You are injured now, it's better to let us escort you there. The 3 ninjas couldn't believe it. Is this really okay? We are ninjas of Hokage. The leader smiled softly. Why do we have to define boundaries for ourselves? In my opinion, each of us is a part of the shinobi world. There is no barrier that can't be broken. Seeing the sincerity in Kuroto's eyes, the three ninjas felt warm inside. I understand, thank you. On the way, the purple-haired female ninja couldn't help but ask, Yahiko, are you going to look for that wood-leaf ninja? Yahiko nodded excitedly. Conan, Nagato, don't you think he is very similar to us? Nagato smiled softly. Are you going to invite him to join our organization? Hearing his question, Yahiko was a little depressed. No, although our purpose is for peace, from the standpoint of those big countries, we are hindering their interests. Before we accumulate enough strength, we can't expose our ideas to those big countries, even if the other party holds the same ideals as us. But as he said, his serious tones suddenly became cheerful, and he winked at the two ninjas. However, it's still okay to observe in advance. Chapter 108. With the help of Nagato's powerful perception ability, the group soon arrived at a camp. Here, candidates from various villages were sitting together, laughing and talking, and there was a wonderful sense of harmony. Seeing this scene, Conan couldn't help but ask, so many of them are gathered together, aren't they afraid of being discovered by all snakes? A Hoshi ninja smiled and said, I can probably understand their thoughts. Weak ninjas like us, once we are discovered by all snakes, we have no ability to escape. On the contrary, in this case, we have the possibility of survival if we escape separately. Another Hoshi ninja added, the shinobi we met before also mentioned the situation here. Maybe because it's relatively hidden, all snakes haven't attacked this place even once. Without considering passing the exam, this place can actually be regarded as a refuge in the forest. Yahiko and the other two were a little moved in their hearts. The scene of peace between the villages they were looking for actually appeared in the Chunin exam. At this time, a ninja in one of the areas said loudly, I'm just a passerby. I didn't believe that there would be any difference between the ninjas of those big countries. Until today, I found that Woodleaf is different from other villages. I see respect in them, I see the possibility of getting along with them as equals. As if it triggered a chain reaction, a group of ninjas echoed. Wu Wei is right, only Woodleaf is our light. Especially Kirin, they don't see us as human beings at all, in their eyes, we are just pigs to be slaughtered at will. Speaking of which, Garashi-sama gave up the bet for us. In case we make Woodleaf lose face, will the big people in Woodleaf punish him for this? Then can we let the village come forward to plead for mercy? It's useless, we are just some genin, what we say is not valued at all, and the village won't change its position because of us. Yeah, we are just some trash hiding in the corner, we don't even dare to continue the exam. Yahiko strode out just as the atmosphere in the room gradually became gloomy. Why do you look down on yourself like this? Everyone has limitless possibilities. Right now, it's only because you haven't found your place yet. Believe in yourself, change yourself, unite all your strength, and there will be a day when this world will tremble because of us. Hearing his impassioned speech, the blood of the people present immediately began to boil. That's right, we have our own uses too. Let the world hear our voices. However, after the excitement, everyone came to their senses. Wait, big brother, who are you? Yahiko laughed awkwardly and gave a thumbs up. I'm just a passerby. Behind him, the three shinobi's eyes had evolved from worship to fanaticism. Hearing this, they hurriedly came forward to explain. The three of us were injured by Kirin's if you don't kill. It was the seniors from Hidden Rain who saved us and escorted us here. Hearing if you don't kill, the group of patients was instantly filled with righteous indignation. It's that damn bastard again. I curse him that he can't find a woman in the future. He can actually save people from if you don't kill, that's amazing. They are injured, hurry up and call Garashi-sama. On the other side, in a small tent that was specially built for the patients to rest. Asma sat upright, smiled, and nodded from time to time. Seeing this, Kurenai couldn't help but ask. Don't you think what they said is a little shameful? Asma shook his head firmly. Our Woodleaf is so good. It's just a pity, why didn't anyone mention me? Kurenai glanced at him. You're not a medical ninja, is it difficult to sit here and rest? Asma felt wronged. But, the person who made the bet is me. If I lose, I have to apologize. Kurenai suddenly said, yes, the person who made the bet is you. This time, Asma felt even more wronged. Garashi sat quietly with his eyes slightly narrowed. Sure enough, it's them, because they sensed the aura of war. They deliberately sneaked into the Chunin exam and took this opportunity to inquire about information? Garashi wasn't too surprised by this. After all, the three of them are rare idealists in this world. At this time, Yahiko and his group of 6 also came over. Garashi-sama, please treat us. The 3 Hoshi ninjas were a little restrained. In their view, Garashi is talented and strong, and he is the disciple of the Sannin. He is destined to become a big figure in Woodleaf, and they may be just ordinary ninjas in a small ninja village for the rest of their lives. Although they are all genin now, their identity is already different from each other. Don't be nervous, I will treat you. Garashi's tone was gentle, and there seemed to be a different kind of power in his voice, making the 3 of them calm down. Chakra with a little fluorescent light sprinkled on the 3 of them, warm and peaceful, as if they were soaked in a hot spring, making them almost fall asleep. Well, it's about time to rest. The 3 of them woke up when they heard the voice, and their eyes were full of disbelief. They let down all their guard in front of a stranger, which is simply unimaginable for ninjas. Yahiko and the other 2 were stunned. Good, it didn't even take a minute, this medical skill is really amazing. Garashi smiled and accepted the praise. I only have medical skills that are barely commendable. Yahiko and the others naturally didn't believe Garashi's modesty. After all, if you don't claim that he didn't even have the power to fight back in front of him. If such strength isn't commendable, then the others can only be said to be trash. Looking at Garashi, Yahiko suddenly asked, do you know that if you don't kill deliberately only injured you and didn't kill you in order to consume your chakra? Garashi said with a smile while wrapping bandages on the 3 of them, if I can't even see this, I don't need to be a ninja. Conan on the side was surprised, you know? Then aren't you worried that he will take the opportunity to sneak attack you? Garashi chuckled softly, there are some things that if you don't do because you are afraid, the world will lose a lot of its glory. Yahiko clapped his hands and said excitedly, yes, there are some things that have to be done, or it's because others don't dare to do it that we have to stand up bravely. Next to them, Asma, who was ignored again and again, couldn't help but say, actually, I think you are thinking too much. You don't really think that Garashi can't beat if you don't kill after consuming most of his chakra, right? Instantly there was an awkward silence. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.